Look at that.
Are we?
Yeah. I threw it on right now. I was excited. Says we are. Not gonna.
There we go.
Chat's not working yet, at least on my end. There we go. Come on, baby. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. There it is. Look at that shit.
There's only one way to wake up in the morning.
How the heck are you?
Yep, that's it. Miller.
But since we can't sit next to one another, I was thinking about the first break toasting my English muffin and saying, hey, it's English muffin time during the starting five.
And Moulton.
Love BOGO English muffins. You throw one on the counter, you throw it in the freezer.
There you go.
For a week, then you take it out. When you've got BOGO, it's like, hey,
knock yourself out.
Broadcasting live from the Kobe Cooling Remote Studios, where it's always cool and comfortable.
Yes! Oh, I like it! It's up to you now! It's up to you! I like it!
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton, our first show in August. Hope you've all been well for these last 9 days. Back in the saddle again, Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming, which has never been more important, at millerandmoulton.com, and broadcasting live once again on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. Top of the morning to you, Mark. How was your vacation?
Outstanding. I mean, really, really good. Didn't want to come back good.
Yeah, I didn't want to get up. And I normally, first sound of the alarm, I react. I don't lay there at all. And I think I let that thing ring for at least 3 minutes.
I beat the alarm, which is strange because I don't think I was up before 9 much the entire vacation. And I beat the alarm, ran upstairs, had this sucker all set up because,
No.
Well, when I turn everything off, David, I get nervous. You never know. The engineers say turn it off and turn it back on again. But what they don't tell you is if you turn it off and wait a week, will it even come back on?
Right. Turn it off, turn it on is to fix something.
Yes.
But turn it off, wait 9 days, turn it on. Who knows?
And I didn't. Usually last night I would have turned it on and just set it up. But, what the hell. So I raced up and got everything ready and had your earliest email invitation from me. I was probably about 5:05, 5:07. I had that to you, I would say.
Oh.
And then I went back about my business. So ready to go. The wife's got the whole week off. Today, David, was supposed to be.
What? Wait, what?
Oh, today was supposed to be the first day of school.
That's right.
So when we had this vacation, my wife originally was taking, her uncle passed, I don't know, a couple months ago, and they're going to have something this week. So she's flying back to Pittsburgh. And so she was taking Monday off to take her daughter to school, and then she was going to leave Wednesday. So she's got the whole week off.
Wow, look at that. That'll be 2 full weeks off.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, a week from today, you may have to just crowbar her to get her up and get her to go to work. Oh, man, when you take there's a big difference between the week vacation and the 2-week vacation. A week, that's a refresher. That's like jumping in the pool or the lake, and that refreshes you. Oh, that feels good. This is great. This is fun. You take 2 weeks off, and really it's 16 days because you throw in both weekends. I mean, Mark, that second week, you kick into that mode in which you're like, yeah, I don't want to go back to life as I know it at all. Oh, no. First week, you're at the end of the week, you're like, okay, this is good. I can keep going on with life, the pursuit of happiness. At the end of that second week, I want to be. I want to move. I want a different husband. I want a different life.
Yes. I mean, that's yes. The answer to all of that will be yes.
Oh, boy.
And David, during the week vacation, watched a good bit of hockey. Obviously watched the golf over the weekend, but with my son, we're watching a lot of pucks at night, falling asleep to the West Coast. Well, I'm falling asleep to the West Coast game. He's staying up for it because, well, he's 21 years old, and that's what you do at that age.
Right.
But then the weekend came. I drove home Saturday, 11 hours in the car, or as you would call a leisurely drive. And
how'd that work for you, by the way?
Fine.
You guys were okay?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I did. Some families cooped up for that long, about somewhere between 5 and 8 hours in. The one looks at the other and goes, yeah, we're never doing this again.
No, it was the daughter was a trooper. I was so proud of my little girl of how well she acted because we split it up on the way because the wife didn't get out of work Friday until late. So we did a little past Jacksonville, got a hotel, and did the rest of the drive on Saturday morning because we couldn't check in until 4 of the house we rented anyhow. But on the way home, it was a straight shot. And fortunately, because you know me and my aversion to fast food. Now, we did have little Bojangles for breakfast, but Brunswick stew is one of my favorite dishes, and it's invented in Brunswick, Georgia. So when we were about 50 miles out, I said, honey, find me some Brunswick stew, and let's order some barbecue. Got off the highway, a couple of barbecue sandwiches, quart of soup to take home with me.
Look at that.
No fast food.
Bada bing, bada boom.
I'm happy. I drove, which made me happier. I didn't let anybody else behind the wheel of the car.
Look at you. I'm the man of the house. We're on vacation, and I'm driving.
All vacation stories will happen today on Twitch.tv. There are some doozies. Blue Puke will be one of the stories.
Oh.
We'll get to it later.
Is that like a cousin of Blue Emu?
No, not even close.
No? Okay.
No. But
all right.
On the drive home, while not paying any attention to sports until we got home, because all of a sudden I'm like, check the scores. We had a little traffic jam by Tampa. There was an accident, had to kind of go around 41 and bypass that sort of light. I grabbed the phone and looked up what was going on in the PGA. That's as much as I did Saturday for sports in the 11-hour drive. And then I got home.
Right.
And see, Friday was good. There were no problems on Friday. The SEC put out a schedule on Friday, David. All was well.
Well, they put out opponents.
Well, okay.
All right. They didn't put dates to it yet, but they teased us.
But they gave us enough to yell at them about how they had just let Alabama and Auburn and LSU and Florida and Georgia and just made it as easy as humanly possible on all of the good teams in the SEC.
Boy, did they take care of the Big Four.
It was pathetic what they did. I'm looking at this Monday going, the show is done.
They stuck it to Arkansas, Missouri, and A&M so badly that I think they wondered, should they go back to the Big 12?
Yes.
That's how badly
they did, David. And I'm like, great. We got a show. We got football. We got Phil Steele.
Right. Yes.
And I am literally... And I don't ever get excited about doing a show on vacation. I don't ever want to come back from vacation. I'm already looking to buy places in North Carolina to move away from you and do the show as far remotely as we can do it from one another.
Hey, wait. Away from me? It got a little personal there. We didn't even talk at all during the whole 9+ days. Don't make this a get away from me. Hell, we've done one show side by side in 5 months. How much more distance do you want?
And I've liked it. I wanted to get more distant. And then all of a sudden, this little pathetic conference in the Midwest says they're not playing football. And no one even cares about them playing football in the first place because they haven't played good football since Roethlisberger was at Miami of Ohio.
That's not true.
I know it's not, but it makes it sound better. I know Western Michigan, Northern Illinois. I get it.
I know. Germans bombed Pearl Harbor.
But the MAC is largely irrelevant in football these days.
Oh, yeah.
The most relevant thing the MAC's done in football in the last, since Western Michigan got their butt kicked in a bowl game, was the announcement they made on Saturday.
Right.
But
done.
But when they made that announcement, I went, uh-oh. Not good. Yep. No bueno here.
No. One of the 10 major Division I conferences saying we're out. They're Kramer in the Seinfeld episode. They slapped their money down 7 minutes in and went, "We're out, Jerry. I'm out."
And then I became nervous. And I became really nervous last night when I'm sitting in my living room with NASCAR on one TV. Nope, nothing. And the golf on the other television.
I didn't want to interrupt.
Well, I know. But NASCAR and golf, and I've got the computer out.
By the way, NASCAR, second of a doubleheader. Just come on. Baseball playing 7-inning doubleheaders and NASCAR doing doubleheader weekends. I mean, the sports world in some ways is really coming around.
It really is. But, David, all of a sudden, my phone rang. As I'm sitting there I got the computer open on Twitter, I got NASCAR, I got golf, I'm sending out the random tweet, having some fun, and I'm watching the football world crumble, and I knew it was over when the phone started ringing, and it was our program director, John Cassio. Because John and I have a very unusual John and David have more of a father and son relationship. And John and I have more of a big brother, little brother who hate each other relationship, but still get along. John and David talk all the time. I talk to John when it's necessary. And it depends on who feels it's necessary whether we talk.
I was going to say necessary is in the eyes of the beholder.
Totally. Totally, because I know sometimes I call John and the answer is, yeah. And I'm like, all right, I gotta kind of explain why I'm calling. And then we're fine after a couple of minutes. And I saw that John was calling, and it wasn't actually about, it was a little work, but it was some, wanted to hear about North Carolina because he wants to go up there. And then he kind of got into the things going. I said, John, this football season's done. I'm like, yeah. He goes, yeah, thank God we got Phil Steele tomorrow. I was so excited about coming back from a week and having arguably the best college football guest in the country on the show today.
Well, we still have him.
Right.
Hey,
but by the
season, we still.
Where? In the SEC?
Well, right. As of now, we still got 9 conferences. All right. Not everybody's bailed yet.
Yet. The key word is yet.
Hey, just because a couple of them bailed doesn't mean they all have to bail. I don't see why the SEC, the Big 12, and the ACC have to go along with the damn Rose Bowl participants. I mean, they're joined at the hip. They have been forever. I mean, they've already canceled the damn Rose Bowl parade, so I guess they want to cancel the game as well. Fine, that's up to them. I don't see why the other conferences have to pack it in.
I want to jump on the bandwagon with you, David. I do. I think that the NFL and the NFL Light, otherwise known as the SEC, may be playing football. I don't know about anybody else right now.
Well, if I'm the Big 12, honestly, if I'm Bob Bowlesby, here's the problem. I don't believe that the conference commissioners have any say here. No. This goes back to what we said 5 months ago. These decisions are going to be made at not just the corner office. These decisions are going to be made in the building on campus. I mean, university presidents are making the call here, which we all knew that this decision would end up on their desk. But if you're a sports fan, that's not good. I mean, it just isn't. You want ADs voicing their opinions to the commissioner, and you want a commissioner making this call. Now, to those that believe, Mark, that if college football had a commissioner, that things would be different right now, this is one of the few times in which I agree with that assessment. Do I think things would be different if college football was its own entity? The NFL has a commissioner, Major League Baseball has a commissioner, all right, but that's making it a pro sport.
Which it already is.
But it certainly is in terms of revenue, that's
right.
for sure. All right, but that's not because they still want to operate under this, veil of amateurism and the whole front of the jersey and sis boom ba and rah rah and send your money to your alma mater. And so that's the way the system is set up. And so that's why the university presidents get to make this call. My question for every university president, though, would be to take the argument and flip it. If you can't play football, how can you have kids on campus? Everybody is taking the argument and asking it the other way. How are you going to be able to play football? First, whether or not you have kids on campus. And then, remember the SEC, Mark, announced their schedule starting September 26th. Why? Greg Sankey said out loud, well, we think when kids return to campus in mid to late August, that there will then be an initial spike in COVID cases, and we want to give everybody a few weeks to kind of tamp it down, and then that's why we're starting as late as possible. And I said, I don't think you can try to schedule around the virus. I just don't think you can. We haven't been able to do anything really around the virus. I mean, either you do it or you don't. I mean, very few places have been able to schedule around the virus. But I would ask every university president, Mark, take the argument that you've been debating and the question you've been answering and flip it. All right? Instead of how are we going to play football with kids on campus, I would say, if you're not going to play football, how are you going to have kids on campus? I mean, if you think that having a couple hundred athletes, you can't keep them safe, you don't think you can play sports involving a few hundred students. Well, what are you going to do with 12,000 or 20,000 or whatever the size of your university is? I mean, I'm sorry. I would look right at them and go, look me in the eyes and tell me if you don't think you can keep 300 safe, how you're going to keep 30,000 safe. And I understand that all 30,000 are not going to be, quote unquote, playing football, but they're all going to be in class and they're all going to be in the dorms around one another. And I think I can make the argument, by the way, I can keep the 300 safer than you can keep your 12,000.
David, Trevor Lawrence yesterday started getting a lot of attention because he tweeted out some, I thought, pretty smart things yesterday, early evening, in which he said, are we really sure that sending everybody home is going to keep the players safer? And it's one hell of an argument, David. We're putting people back into their homes where the social distancing may not be enough, and I started elaborating on what he said. And my wife and I were talking last night. We did go old school last night without the work. She went Martini, I went Manhattan.
Oh,
old school.
Look at the two of you.
Oh, yeah.
Look at you. I mean, somebody break out a cigar?
No, she'll do the martini on occasion, and I do the bourbon. But since she was doing the martini, I threw a little vermouth in my Manhattan and said, in my bourbon, and said, you know what? I'll do a bourbon Manhattan. I'm not afraid.
Did you download a black and white movie just for what and giggles?
Casablanca.
Nice.
But back in the day, David, there was a thing that was really popular on college campuses. They were called football dorms. And they have been since.
And by back in the day, you mean like 2014?
Well, a lot longer than that where I went to school. They were long done at Michigan State by the time I entered college. The quote-unquote football dorm was done by the late 80s, maybe not in the South, but certainly in the Big Ten. Now, I lived across the street from the football complex, so my dorm had a lot of football players in it, but it also had a lot of students in it. You can easily bubble these kids on campus. For example, my son is about to be in his 4th year at East Carolina University. They have split it up into basically quarters. He's doing 8-week courses the first week, 8-week courses the second week. His first block of 8-week courses is all online. There's no reason why you can tell me that we couldn't put all these football players in a dorm together. Sorry for the older guys that had their own apartments and stuff. I don't know what to tell you. But if you want, we have learned that the NHL and the NBA are pulling this off and pulling it off damn well. Put them in a dorm. Have them take their classes online. Bubble the football players. The only time they're going to see other football players is at games. We're doing it by conference right now, so we don't have to worry about what the MAC, who's not playing, and the Conference USA and the Sun Belt and the rest of them. No.
By the way,
everybody's going to be in a football. I'm telling you, David, if they've perfected bubbles in other sports, they could realistically do this on a college campus.
We've been saying for a couple of weeks, the irony was we were looking at this argument 4+ months ago as saying, well, they can't play college football unless they have kids on campus. And then 4 months later, it's like, actually the way to play college football is to keep everybody home for a semester and then put the athletes in a bubble on campus and keep them safe and play your football. And why are we playing football? Yes, for the money. Yeah, we're not going to lie and sugarcoat this. I can get the NFL Films music in the background and the trumpets and Facenda and all that. No, we're playing this for the money. Period.
But also not just for the money for college football. You try to tell me that Clemson, South Carolina, and Auburn, Alabama, and these little small towns are going to survive a year without collegiate athletics? And oh, by the way, if we're going to cancel college football, that is just the precursor for winter sports being delayed. Don't kid yourself.
Yeah, there's not going to be November and December college basketball. There may be like an ACC Big Ten challenge in mid to late December in a bubble somewhere. It would not shock me if they were to send everybody to like one place and play their 10 games over 3-4 days and do it in a bubble. That would not surprise me. But otherwise, I don't see any I don't see the 2 tournaments in Southwest Florida happening.
No. USC versus FGCU is done.
Yeah.
Done. I don't know what to tell anybody. They're not happening.
In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if conferences even try to create a bit of a bubble. Would not shock me. It really wouldn't. If they take a look at what's going on and instead of just playing the conference schedule as scheduled beginning January 2nd everywhere, it wouldn't shock me if they try to create little bubbles and play their games accordingly, in which the student athletes just take their classes online for a couple months. And then we have March Madness. I'll say this about the MAC quickly. Mark, I don't blame them. Because if you think about it, when the big boys canceled all their big money games, what is it that we're talking about? A big part of the reason why we're talking about wanting to play college football is the money. I mean, you and I have been brutally honest from March 12th to now. This is about money. Billions of dollars spread out over 100 major universities in this country. That's what this is about. Never mind the local economies and what have you. This is about money. And can athletic departments survive, and in some cases even universities financially stay afloat if, in fact, they don't play major college sports for a full year? Now, we could argue whether or not this financial system should be this way and these places should have cash reserves. Yeah, but like most people, they don't. They spend what they make. And then when something bad happens, they turn around and go, I got $18 in my account. I'm really blanked. But if you look at the MAC, the guarantee games went away. So let me get this straight. I can't have people at the games, can't make money that way. I don't have much of a TV contract, can't make money that way. And the big money games on our schedule have been canceled. So now the number one revenue sport instead is going to be nothing more than the number one cost that I have. I don't blame them for canceling at all.
And I think you're going to see every single group of 5 conference, with the exception of the AAC, follow in step shortly. Your point is 100% accurate. I have been bringing up Kent State for months because Kent State had Penn State and Alabama on the schedule. $3.25 million in guaranteed money. Do you know how much of the athletic department budget that those 2 games covered?
Yeah. A lot.
Damn right it did. Covered programs. And when those games went away, Kent State went away largely.
Remember, a month ago, Akron, the university, laid off 150 people at the university. Not in the athletic department, at the university. The university is in financial straits. And now you're going to take away the athletic department's guarantee games? I mean, they're barely staying afloat as it is.
And remember, we do sports, and we've really stayed away from what David talked about with what is going on at Akron. But if you think that the university's trying to bring kids back on campus is for the good of the kids, I think you're nuts. The reason they want to bring kids back on campus is that David and I have said this. The entire university system crumbles without students on campus. It's Southeast New Hampshire State or whatever the hell that school is.
Southern New Hampshire University.
Whatever.
Well, saw a story yesterday, CBS Sunday Morning. Yes, I'm old. I watch CBS Sunday Morning. Terrific show, by the way, especially once you get to my age. All right. But they said 94%.
Brought to you by Metamucil. Sorry.
Yes. Yes. And
helping you go as long as CBS Sunday Morning's been on the air.
And pick a drug that starts with either the letter X or Z. Yes. And that's a 20-second list of what side effects you may suffer from. But 94% of those surveyed this year say, yeah, I think we deserve some kind of refund if we're going to have to take classes online. I don't think we should be paying full price. And we said, you can get away with it for a semester, and maybe you can get away with it for a year, in which we all go, coronavirus. But after that, it's ball game over. Nobody's going to pay these prices anymore. I mean, we're all figuring out a new way to do things. I mean, are people going to keep buying office space the way they were up until 4 or 5 months ago? We already know the answer's no. So how long do you think people are going to keep paying what they have to pay for the university system if they're going to be doing everything on a computer? I am surprised as we head to break. The number one thing that surprises me about this is we're not going to try. And I know you can come at me, and, I sound like a quote-unquote sports guy when I say that. But it's very un-American to me to not try. To try and fail is one thing. And you could argue, well, we're trying to keep people safe. Yes, yes, I get it. But I am surprised that it appears, Mark, as if the major conferences are not going to try. I thought they would try, potentially fail, throw up their hands and say, hey, we gave it a shot.
But, David, here's the problem that I have. And for the record, I agree with you. They're going to try to bring everybody back on campus, but they're not going to try to play football. There's something about that I find disturbing. If we can bring back to the original argument, if we can bring the kids back on campus, but we can't play football, why are the kids back on campus?
Correct.
And I'll leave you with this last little bit to ponder as we go to the Blue Puke break. Terrific story. Vacation stories only on Twitch TV. We got way too much to talk about sports-wise on the show. Not going to bore you with it during the show, but I will tell some doozies during the commercial breaks. But my son, who's an East Carolina University student, said to me, Dad, I got an email. You know those one-way things at the grocery store that nobody abides by? I said, yeah. He goes, they're apparently going to try that on campus this year. How do you think that's going to work out?
Miller and Moulton.
Phil Steele at 8.
Right. About the college football season that will still be happening when he's on the show.
We are not acting like the weekend happened with Phil Steele. Just telling you right now, we're going to take this like it's football season. At least for that 30 minutes. I'm sorry.
Right.
I can't do it any other way.
Because otherwise, well, we'll just start weeping. And Phil might also.
You're damn right.
Phil Steele at 8. The starting 5 is next. Miller and Moulton. Top of the morning to you. We're back from vacation. And thanks for being back with us on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
You can't watch base.
All right. So the blue puke story is coming. Lake Lure, Johnny Mac was fabulous. I absolutely loved the North Carolina mountains. My goodness, are they beautiful. So we went to Asheville for a day trip. And which probably would be a lot of fun if it was, pre-coronavirus, because some of the music clubs and that stuff looked amazing. It is very much a San Francisco light town, if you will. A lot of homeless, which you don't see east of the Mississippi, and a lot of southern towns. A little hippie town, very cool. So the wife and mother and daughter went to some art-type gallery. And Jake and I went to a microbrew. Because, well, I didn't really care for art, and Jake likes it even less than I do. So the daughter, mom, and the wife went to the little gallery and then had some ice cream. And there was Superman there, which the daughter is a big fan of. If you're not from Michigan and don't know what Superman ice cream is, it's horrible. It's basically colored. No, we went to Wicked Weed Brewery. They have a Sierra Nevada. It's a little further away. We were downtown. So it's basically vanilla dyed ice cream, if I'm not mistaken. It's like blue, red, and yellow and colored. But we also went to 12 Bones Barbecue, recommended by one Antoine Staley. Holy cow, were the ribs amazing. Best ribs I've ever had, and it's not close. Well, if you've ever driven in the mountains, there's a lot of turns. And you go up and down, and I mean, it's an F1 race. And Jake was driving, and, we're doing the turns, and it was about an hour to Asheville. About 30 miles, but an hour, because literally of the turns. And we are 3 miles from our place when all of a sudden my daughter threw up a little bit. That was the first of 3 tremendous pukes that, because of the Superman ice cream and the barbecue, were blue.
Ooh,
completely blue. We pulled over in the Lake Lure Baptist Church parking lot.
Nice.
Where she finished throwing up. We doused her in water, undressed her, dumped water over the chair, basically sat her in underwear and got home. And there was about 3 or 4 people that were in the parking lot coming out of church, all older, and all very nice, got us paper towels, all were very sweet. But the guy first said, she was throwing up. My kids did that. I just stuck their head out of the window and kept going, which I thought was hysterical. And then he got nervous. But yeah, it was pure. No, it was Friday. It was Friday. Puke day was Thursday. Sorry. So blue puke, not blue email, and it did smell. It smelled just like the most horrible vomit you could ever smell.
Oh, sure. It was ribs and Superman ice cream.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Right. But I'm ticked. I missed the earthquake. There was an earthquake Sunday in North Carolina.
There was.
I'm so pissed.
Ryan,
that's how I found out.
I woke up to an earthquake in North Carolina in 2020.
Largest one since 1917 there.
Well,
yes, I did go through Bat Cave. Twice, as a matter of fact. We made it on our way back from Brevard, where my son's roommate lives. We went there Friday. We decided not to take the highway to go back, so we go through Bat Cave again. There's a town called Bat Cave, North Carolina.
Well, he's driving through bad shit, North Carolina. Gonna have to fly through this. Mark.
Group or one-on-one sessions, short and long-term programs for beginners through elite professional athletes of any sport. Step up your game and enroll now. Find Stephen DeViti Hydro Athletics on Instagram or visit asc-florida.com.
No matter where you're boating, with Towboat US, you're covered by the world's largest towing fleet with over 300 ports nationwide. Your local Towboat US companies in Charlotte, Lee, and Collier counties are here to help 24/7, 365 days a year. Inland, the river to Lake O, and out 75 nautical miles. And new membership pricing starts as low as $99. Call 239-1664 for more information, or visit towboatuscapecoral.com. With Towboat US, you're never stuck on the water.
Here we go. Now back to Miller and Moulton. No. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
25 minutes before the hour. Thanks so much for being with us. We are Miller and Moulton. This is Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com and broadcasting live once again on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and twitch.tv channels. 479-5551 is how you can chime into the show. 479-5551 on the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. Went a little long in the monologue. First show back in a week and a half. First show back in August. So, Mark, without further ado, it's time now for
The Starting Five. 5 big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton Starting Five. Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
lot to get to just from yesterday. Colin Morikawa shot a 6-under 64, including a dramatic eagle on the 16th hole to take the lead for good and win the PGA Championship by 2 over Dustin Johnson and Paul Casey. Morikawa, in just his second ever major, wins his first major. For DJ Mark, it's his third second-place finish in the last 5 majors. Back-to-back years in the PGA, he finished second, and he was part of that group that was a shot back of Tiger when he won the Masters last year. So 3 second-place finishes for DJ in the last 5 majors. But there's a new star in the golf ranks. DeChambeau getting all the press, but the guy with 2 wins and a loss in a playoff so far since golf has returned is one Colin Morikawa. NHL playoff.
23? 23.
Yeah.
23.
Yeah. NHL playoffs are set. Columbus shut out Toronto 3-0. The Leafs Stanley Cup drought is now 53 years and counting. 1967, the last time the Leafs hoisted Lord Stanley. Columbus gets a rematch with the Lightning. The East is sexy. Philly and Montreal, they've got history. Tampa Bay and Columbus. Remember, Columbus shocked them and swept them out of the playoffs a year ago. Washington and the Islanders. Barry Trotz against his old team. And Boston and Carolina, they met in the conference finals a year ago.
If the Washington-Boston game yesterday would have flipped, it would have been a little better. You'd had Boston and the Islanders. You'd had Washington and Carolina. If you know what I mean. They're in the same division. I think it's a break for Carolina, who looked terrific against your Rangers, David.
Yes, they did. What's amazing is that the 2 best teams, Boston in the East and St. Louis in the West, coming back. They played their 3-game round robins. Both the Bruins and Blues, who met in the finals last year, went 0-3 in the round robins and are now the 4 seed heading into their respective playoffs. Both 12 seeds advanced, Montreal and Chicago. NBA, Mark, 2 playoff series are set. There will be no play-in game in the East. Milwaukee and Orlando is the 1-8 matchup. Toronto and Brooklyn is the 2-7 matchup. Meanwhile, out west, they're going to have a play-in game. That has been assured. You've got 4 teams, Mark, that are separated by a game and a half. And one of them's the Phoenix Suns. For those of you that have not been paying attention to the NBA and its restart, Phoenix is 5-0 in the restart. I mean, most people mock the NBA for inviting Phoenix to the restart. They're now a game and a half out of the 8 seed. They're 5-0. They're beating everybody. NASCAR, Kevin Harvick won twice. Yeah, they raced Saturday and then they raced again Sunday. And Harvick said, well, same track, same car. Okay. So he won both.
He just wins.
Yeah.
This thing,
really
he and Hamlin are the only ones that even have a shot right now.
The other news that came out of NASCAR over the weekend, very quickly, the Southern 500, which is taking place Labor Day weekend, they're going to have fans. Now, they're only going to have about 8 to 10,000. But in the state of South Carolina right now, they're not allowed to have gatherings of more than 250 people at anything. But Darlington, they got one of those special waivers. Like one of those things the Giants and the Jets got from the governor of New Jersey. A little something here on the side. You guys, no. At your house, backyard, hell no. You guys, you want to race? Yeah, sure, fine. We'll let you have about 10,000 people. College sports, the NCAA, if you missed it last week, they punted on everything. They said, we're a bunch of gutless blankety blanks. We can't make up our mind. We're going to leave it up to the respective divisions as to whether or not they want to play. D2, D3, all that. Yeah, you guys decide for yourselves. We're not going to make that call. They didn't even have the guts to make the call on the fall sports season for Division I. No. So the Big Ten took it upon themselves. They got a new commissioner. And, Mark, I don't know Jim Delaney personally, but I'm just going to say it. If Jim Delaney were commissioner of the Big Ten, they would not be talking about canceling the football season.
Damn right.
I'm just telling you that right now.
The university presidents all might want to tell Jim that, but he would never utter those words.
Yeah, Jim Delaney would be like Charlton Heston at the NRA meeting to the university presidents. That's what he would. But they got a new commissioner. I think it's Frank Warren is his name. And apparently Frank wants no part of playing football in the fall. He's talking about playing football in the spring, which most people think at big time, that's not going to work. But anyway, that's what he's pushing for. The Big Ten presidents met yesterday, and the thought is as soon as today, they could cancel all fall sports, including football. And then what dominoes would fall after that? All 5 Power 5 commissioners are scheduled to have a conference call today. They claim that's a regularly scheduled conference call.
I'm glad you put that part in. I needed a laugh.
Yeah. So, they claim it was already on the schedule.
Yep. I literally paid attention to every second of the starting 5 to make sure that little tidbit was in.
Nothing to see here. Everything's fine. No, this is a regularly scheduled meeting.
It's the second Monday of August. We always talk on the second Monday of August.
Now, we've been talking every Monday. All right, we have. We've been doing it for months. It's no big deal. No problem. Basically, folks, it seems as if will the Big 12, the SEC, and the ACC have the onions to do their own thing? Because it certainly looks as if the Big 10 and the Pac-12 are heading down a particular road. And the prevailing wisdom right now is that the university presidents in the other 3 conferences are going to go along with them and that it's going to be unanimous. Remember, Bowlesby of the Big 12, Sankey of the SEC, they have said many times in these last 5 months, we do not have to have uniformity. But this shows once and for all, they're not making this call. This is the university presidents who are making this call. And the interesting thing is, will the big money people at some of these schools end up coming after these university presidents if they make a certain call?
Well, I have to believe that all of us have to know that if you are a certain level of donor, you probably have the phone number of the AD, and some of you may have the phone number of the president at a certain level, or at least can get him on the phone pretty damn quickly. He knows who you are.
Yes.
And I've got to think this morning and last night, David, there were some athletic directors that were taking some pretty nasty phone calls from some really wealthy people.
And they're saying, hey, don't call me, okay?
But the next
for us to play.
Right, and the next sentence is, all right, then you better give me his phone number, or he or she better call me right now, because I'm telling you that these $5 million that I give you every year are done.
Hey, pass it around. Here's his number.
But
I'll give you his second phone. I'll give you his burner phone, the one that only his girlfriend knows. Yeah, here, you want that? Absolutely.
What is it, Bobby Petrino?
Baseball. The St. Louis Cardinals have only played 5 games so far this season.
55 and 49. That's 55 games in 49 days that they will have to play in order to finish the season.
Mark, that's as of today.
Right.
But the Cardinals-Pirates 3-game series today, tomorrow, and Wednesday has already been canceled.
So now we're at 55 and 46.
Correct. Say that out loud. The
55
St. Louis
games
Cardinals.
in 46 days.
Right. There you go. No big deal or anything. Yep. The Cardinals are 2-3, by the way, on the season. They're almost in the playoffs. Marlins lost 2 of 3 to the Mets. 7-3 are the Marlins, 10 games into the season. Think about that. The Marlins, who started this whole COVID mess, have played twice as many games as the Cardinals. The Rays took 3 or 4 from the Yankees. Thank you very much. Tampa Bay is 8-8 on the season. The A's and Astros had a brawl yesterday. Yeah, that's right.
They had a group discussion.
They had a benches clearing melee.
They had a benches clearing discussion. There wasn't a punch thrown.
And, well, it's because the Oakland A's player got tackled before he could get to the dugout by a couple of Astros coaches.
He tried to go 1 on 29 or whatever they're dressing these days.
Well, here's my thing. You got to remember, no fans in the stands. There's no noise. The chirping, everybody's hearing everything. Umpires, players. That's why you've had a bunch of ejections in the last few days, because everybody's hearing everything. Anyway, an A's player goes charging after a couple of Astros coaches because they were blanking him from the dugout, and all you know what ensued. The Astros are 6-9, by the way. And Jose Altuve is not hitting much better than Miller and Moulton would be if we were playing in the majors. Jose Altuve looks as if he needs to know what's coming.
Because the strikeouts have been ugly. I mean, there have been some swings that he has taken where, David, he seems to just be guessing at what they're throwing.
Mark, if I didn't know any better, I'd say he made a dadgum good point. And finally, Zach Pleezak is a pitcher for the Indians, and he's a pretty good one. The Indians have a lot of good ones. Zach Pleezak started on Saturday and then went out with a couple of friends after the game. Normally, what's the big deal? 2020, that's kind of a big deal. And so the Indians found out about it, and they sent him home. And by sent him home, they told him, you get your own blankety-blank home. So Zach Pleezak had to rent a car and drive his blank back home, where he will sit for the next 4 days in punishment and in quarantine because he went out with some friends after the game on Saturday. And that, Mark, is
the starting 5 big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton Starting 5. Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Man, when's the last time you think Zach Pleezak was sent to his room? Basically what the Indians just did.
When he didn't make the top travel ball team. His mother. At 11, his mother sent him to his room because he didn't make the top squad on the Dirtbags travel team.
Right. You need to do better. We've got a lot of money invested in this. You better go in that room and think long and hard about what you want to be when you grow up. Miller and Moulton.
We'll come up with a poll question during this break, or will it? What's part of the things that we do on this show?
I forgot.
I mean, show prep was great today. David jumped on very early. I looked at the camera to see that he was there, and I saw a chair for 14 minutes.
No, I had it all done. While you were getting your you-know-what together, I got it done. I did my show prep first and then ate. Yeah.
English muffins for everyone when we come back. Miller and Moulton, Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com, and more vacation stories on twitch.tv next.
Welcome to the program.
This is the Dan Patrick Show.
I don't know how close the commissioner was to shutting down baseball after what happened to the Marlins. And now with the Cardinals, you're not going to have teams play 60 games. It's going to be based off winning percentage. But understand this.
What a year indeed.
From what I'm told, they don't care about the regular season.
Saw 2 black bear on vacation, David, in the mountains.
Wow. How close?
When we went to see Jake's roommate, he drove us around this state forest. We stopped to see the Looking Glass Falls. Absolutely beautiful. And then he drove us. His company takes care of all these roads. And so we were driving on some really wild one-way back roads around the state park. And damned if 2 didn't bears. We were in a car, so he tried to run at him with the car and hit him. We didn't come that close. Transylvania County, North Carolina.
Wow. towns as if there's nothing, no problems here.
And actually, Transylvania means, what is it? Woods between two places or something like that is actually the meaning. More, a little factoid for everybody. More waterfalls in Transylvania County than any other county in North Carolina.
Wow. Put that on the side.
Like hundreds of them, David. Beautiful.
Whole question.
All right.
We've got our good friend Tim Meister, owner of the Floor Meisters in Naples, on the phone.
Do the SEC, ACC, and Big 12 do something different than play football with the Big 10?
If you were a university president, would you play football?
All of these listeners are going to say,
Well, you could give them fall, spring, not at all.
And it's not just the many colors
All right.
of Cortec that you have.
Or, well, otherwise you want to ask.
The only thing I would ask is do you believe that the SEC, and I could just put it at the SEC, do you still believe the SEC plays football? In lieu of the weekend's events, where football right now is on effing life support.
You really owe it to yourself to visit the store. 6281 Naples Boulevard, right next to Costco, or go online, floormeisters.com. That's floormeisters.com.
I mean, there are 3 Division III conferences. Here's another question. I mean, some of these states are going to have high school football, so you're going to play high school football and not college football.
Which state?
Well, Tennessee.
Are they really?
Tennessee's full speed ahead.
Did you see the picture from the girl got suspended in Georgia?
Yeah. And then they reinstated
Yeah,
her by Friday.
They deleted the suspension pretty quickly.
Yeah, they also had 9 people who have now immediately test positive in their high school for COVID. Which is, this goes back to, we've only been saying it for 5 months. What are you going to do when people test positive? Because they're going to test positive. Are you just going to take them out of circulation and move forward? Or are you going to shut everything down? That's basically, that's it in a nutshell.
Kamala, the Ugandan giant, died yesterday. One of my favorite wrestlers of all time. He used to have the big belly, big black guy. He used to slap his belly. I loved him.
Gotcha.
All right. University, I don't care which, but I think it's got to be one or the other.
If you were a university president, would you play college football this year? Yes in the fall, yes in the spring, no.
We've been named #1 by readers of the News Press and Naples News for 17 consecutive years and have just been named as Lee County's Manufacturer of the Year. Want to see more? Go to myShowerDoor.com.
Now back to Miller and Moulton.
All right, now we're getting somewhere.
This is Miller and Moulton. You're live.
Seven minutes before the hour. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com, broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. You can always chime into the show on the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line, and that number is 479-5551, 479-5551.
We've got ourselves a poll question.
We got ourselves a sponsor.
No, we really don't.
No.
Poll question sponsored by nobody.
Right.
Nobody.
By Peels. Right. People got a lot of feedback on the Friday, July 31st show in which we attached businesses that are no longer in business as sponsors to all the things in our show that are not sponsored. Got a lot of positive feedback. We may just have to, could be like a sponsor Friday.
Fair enough. First off, a couple of vacation poll questions happened, and I'm really impressed with how many of you voted. First off, vacation poll number 2 was a better vacation house, beach house, lake house, or mountain house. I figured beach house would win because it was Florida, and it did.
Right.
41%. Vacation poll number 1, favorite barbecue meat, pulled pork, brisket, or ribs, pulled pork, beating ribs, brisket, coming in last place. Thank you for participating. But today is very simple. If you were a university president, would you play college football this year? Yes in the fall, delay until spring, not at all.
There you go. That's our poll question. And we make you a university president because they're making the call here. They are. The NCAA has no power over big-time Division I college football, and they punted on making the call about all the other levels of football. They left it up to those conference commissioners. Well, in big-time college football, the university presidents are largely taking this out of the commissioner's hands, although apparently in the Big Ten, the new commissioner is pushing the university presidents to not play in the fall. The new Big Ten commissioner wants to play football in the spring. And, Mark, we're going to find out just how much power the players have. Because around the country in the last 36 hours, college football players are taking to social media to say, hey, we want to play. Hey, we've been practicing. We're together. We're safe. We're good. What are you doing?
And, you know, David, you said a few years ago, depending on what part of the world you're in, football dorms were everywhere in the 80s and 90s. And then they said it wasn't fair to put the kids in one dorm, the athletes in one dorm and everybody else in another. And we integrated the students so all football players couldn't have a dorm. This seems very simple to me. Get the football dorm back. Everybody's got to live in a dorm. Sorry about your apartments. The university can afford to pay them. They can afford to flip. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry for crying out loud. They can get your checkbooks out, start writing some checks, get these kids in a dorm together, let them do their classes online, and let's give it a shot. Because the reason I didn't say play in spring and said delay until spring, David, is because there's no way right now we can say play in the spring. We've put schedules out that we're not adhering to now. So why do we put a schedule out in the spring? We don't know what's going to happen then.
And if the fall sports season is not going to happen, well, then is the winter one going to happen? And if so, when? And if they announce a date, really? Are you sure? Miller and Moulton. Phil Steele will join us at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. Thanks so much for listening. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Let's face it, these are stressful times. New routines, the constant bombardment of bad news, and trying to keep you and your family safe all the time. It's Frank for Center for Men's Health. During these stressful times, your mood is so critical, and nothing's more important to a guy's mood than testosterone. The single greatest issue for guys with low T is mood.
Had that Wally's cheesesteak yesterday, Johnny Mac. I had barbecue in 3 different states. Pretty happy about that. 12 Bones in Asheville, outstanding. The railroad in Columbia was spectacular for a multitude of reasons. Antoine had 2 other places he recommended for me in Columbia, both closed because of the vid. So we went to the railroad. We called them to make sure they were open. When we got there, they're like, y'all the ones that called? And a little tiny place right next to a railroad track, mind you. But someone said, can we sit inside? Because there was a lady sitting in there. And like, she's the owner. So she can sit wherever she wants, huh? But literally, she jumped up because they only allowed 6 people on their patio. And there was no one on the patio. It was just to go. The owner gets up, cleans the table off with one of the bussers so we could sit outside. Brought us napkins. I mean, they treated us like gold. We had a bunch of food, and I tip outrageously because, well, that's what you do this time, with this going on. But really good pulled pork. Really good pulled pork. Ribs, not as good as 12 Bones. 12 Bones ribs were just amazing. Just amazing. Nice collard greens, too. Very good greens. David, I know you're a big collard green fan.
Not at all. The Tigers are going to be over within 40 games at the rate things are going. This is gross.
It is.
The D-bags and the Tigers. Rangers are doing okay for me. They're losing regularly. The Rays are doing okay for me. They're winning regularly. Hockey was a train wreck. When Columbus blew that lead, I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm going to go 0 for all my bets? 3-0 with a minute left, or with 3.5 minutes left?
Yeah, right.
351, I think 351's when they scored the first one. And I looked up and I went, uh-oh.
There was a face-off in the zone with 4:05 to go.
And they pull the goalie and score.
And Milbury and Forsland start doing the Maple Leafs epithet, talking about changes that need to be made, this, that, and the other thing, and boom, score. Oh, okay, they've got life at 3-1.
Yeah, a bunch of new messages from the Bucks. The last thing, I think I had this before I left, but the Bucks, basically the last word from the Bucks is, we will defer your money to 2021. We will let you use your money to buy tickets for the games you want for 2020 in the limited crowd, or you can have your money back. And since I'm not hearing anything on tailgating, the odds are I'm probably going to take my money back. I don't think I'm going to leave $2,300 out there in limbo right now for 2021.
You'll never get those seats.
So what? He's only going to play one more year.
Yeah, well.
And then I'd be able to get them anytime I want after that.
Well, that's true.
It's English muffin time during the starting five.
And Moulton. Love BOGO English muffins. You throw one on the counter, you throw the other in the freezer.
There you go.
For a week, then you take it out. When you've got BOGO, it's like, hey, knock yourself out.
Broadcasting live from the Kobe Cooling Remote Studios, where it's always cool and comfortable.
It's up to you now. It's up to you. I like it.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
As we approach a couple minutes past the top of the hour. Thanks so much for being with us. Nice to be back in the saddle again. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com and broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. Mark, our show's going to get a lot more exposure on Twitch.
Really?
All right. Yeah, more news about that coming up.
Good to hear.
Right. Yeah.
And I would tell you all to go to Twitch right now because, well, 94.1's out of commission for a few days.
Yeah, apparently most of the week, if not the whole week.
So millerandmoulton.com, good way to listen, really easy.
Yep.
Twitch.tv, subscribe, really good way to listen and watch.
Bada bing, bada boom.
And get all the commercials.
Right.
With, like the blue stories.
Right. Not just blue emu.
No.
Right.
Blue that stinks.
Right.
When you mix good barbecue and Superman ice cream and a curvy drive with a 6-year-old, you don't get blue emu.
No, you don't. No, you don't. It's like when you that rainbow ice cream in which the tongue ends up the really dark blue, almost purplish.
Your rainbow ice cream about the same as Superman, David.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's kind of what you guys had there.
Yep.
So, yep. Yes, vacations. Nothing quite like them.
Although daughter got to learn how to play pool. This house we rented had a full-blown game room downstairs.
Nice.
Pinball it's digital pinball. And then all the video games in one, all your Pac-Mans and your Galagas and that whole genre, and the pool table. So the daughter learned how to shoot a little pool, getting her ready.
That's good. I mean, we've taught her about over-unders and point spreads. All right. Now we're teaching her about, pool, which will be good because, we want her to meet her first husband at the local pool hall.
Really?
Whatever it is.
Really?
And so, we're just teaching her the finer things in life. The gambling and pool. I mean, there's not much left, actually, Mark. I mean, how much more? And we've done it at a very early age. I mean, I think we could knock out the 4 or 5 necessities before she's 10. All right, which would just be fantastic.
So we really don't organize our commercial breaks other than the one before the poll question, which we try to come up with one, and we're batting about 500 on that at best, maybe 330. Right. And we didn't at all in this last break discuss what we were talking about, but I want to talk a little PGA if that's all right with you, because we love us some West Coast golf.
Yes.
And
Primetime golf, baby.
it is phenomenal. But not just primetime golf, the opportunity to make certain people look foolish. And Phil Mickelson did that with perfection on Saturday.
Okay.
Oh, did you not catch this?
No, I caught Phil.
In the booth?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, David, I had a long, long drive. And I get home, and on a group text, I see a little video. And like, what? And the word next to it, I'm like, I can't play this in the car. I can't play this around my kids. So I had to wait for just a little bit until we were able to, until I was alone and I could listen to it. So I don't know if you know, if folks caught this, but Phil joined Nick Faldo and Jim Nantz in the booth.
Right.
And, well, it sounded a little like this.
Fireside chat with Phil. Yeah. Phil, great to have you.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. There's three things I do well: play golf and talk golf.
What's the third then?
There you go.
There you
Nick
go.
Faldo, what's the third?
Right.
A joke has never flown over someone's head faster than that joke flew over Nick Faldo's head.
Does anybody watch Faraday?
Yes.
Faraday had Justin Thomas on one of. In fact, he got Justin Thomas, I think, like 3 days after he won the PGA, is when he sat down and talked to JT. And so Faraday near the end, he's got some rapid fire stuff that he does. And so he throws out a few players, Tiger, the GOAT, starts going through certain guys, throws out his younger buddies. And then he says, Phil. And JT smiles and says, Phil's that guy who talks a lot and is a good guy, but is not nearly as funny as he thinks he is. All right. And I thought of that. And I'm a Phil guy, and Phil will be amazing in the booth when that day comes. Okay. But I thought of that quote from JT when I'm watching this thing and the awkwardness between Phil and Faldo, in which Faldo is thinking what JT said 3 years ago.
Oh, I don't know about that. I want to know when Nick, or when Sir Nick caught it, because he was, Nance, it's a bad joke to begin with, but when one of the three people don't even get it, it's no longer about Phil. It's about Nick.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And all I kept thinking yesterday is when I switched from ESPN over to CBS at around 2:56, as their coverage is basically over. It was the end of Nick's half-hour show about me, the Faldo formula. And there's nothing about that formula I want to be a part of if you can't get that simplistic of a joke. The formula looks like it sucks.
Well, but the formula works on the course.
No. It's his formula about life. No. This is Nick Faldo about life. The Faldo formula. It's not getting jokes and having a lot of money. You're the rich guy at the table that laughs after everybody else does because you just want to fit in.
I will say this, though, that Morikawa is a Faldo-like player. Faldo was just long enough, not long at all right? But until the end of his career, he was not short. Faldo was kind of, average distance. So that iron play was really Faldo's thing. Morikawa's, he's an iron player. All right, he's a great iron player. Maybe the best iron player on the tour.
Right, and he doesn't miss fairways with his drive either. So for major championships, that's a lethal combination. I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to win 6. Who knows? There are so many damn good young players right now. We didn't even know Matthew Wolff was in the tournament until he made an eagle on 10 because they just refused to show him make the birdies earlier than that. We didn't. All of a sudden, he's putting for eagle and he's a shot tied. We're like, wait a minute. You haven't showed this guy all day.
Golf's in really good shape. Primetime golf works. there's two things that if you're the U.S. Open and the PGA of America, because obviously, well, Augusta's Augusta and the Open Championship with the time zone difference, and they've got their rotation of courses. But if you're the USGA and the PGA of America, and the U.S. Open, I believe, has got a couple more West Coast Opens coming. They got Torrey, and I think they go back to Olympic Club. But somebody made a suggestion that the PGA of America, that their thing, Mark, going forward is they should hold their championship at public courses. There are great public courses in this country because Harding Park there is a public course. PGA, that held up well, don't you think?
Oh, I mean, it was terrific. Look,
yeah,
when you watched, if you watch the early play, Ryan Palmer finishes eagle birdie and shoots 31 on the backside. And they were kind of joking because Jordan Spieth played pretty well and shot 3 under, I believe, 67 or 66, and I think he shot 66 and got beat by 2 or 3 by Palmer. And they were in the same group and they're buddies. And they interview Spieth after. And he says, matter of factly, he says flat out, he goes, no, we were talking about it. Somebody could go 30 on the back 9 today. And they all went, what? And he goes, no, Ryan and I were talking about it. The back 9 for the first time's gettable. And those guys, I mean, when Spieth started talking about how much they liked the course, and the setup was great. They just had the wind lie down a little bit on Sunday, and they gave him some favorable pins. And that course was terrific. We had a drivable par 4. I mean, that Morikawa drive is one of the great shots in major championship history.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Signature shot from the event. But it was held at a public course, and it was held on the West Coast. Now, it's tough you can't just limit your choices to that combination. But somebody made the suggestion, and I thought it was a really good one. If you're the PGA of America, too, what's your thing? The club pros, we just want you to take up the game. And, we're not the U.S. Open. We've got 30 guys in this field every year who are you're going to see at your local pro shop, and that's who we are.
Justin Birch, who's been on the show from Naples, played in it again this year.
Right. That's our thing. So why not also, since this is who we are, have it at a public course? You don't have to have if you could almost come up with your rotation of public golf courses and just have it rotate. Find 10. And
you got Pinehurst, which is a public course. You got Bethpage, which is a public course. You got Harding Park. I mean, that's just 3 off the top of our head.
Right. And we all know there are great public golf courses out there. And once every 10 years, they'd be willing to go, hell yeah, we'll have a major championship here. But primetime golf works. People like it. People like it. Think about it. Golf, older people watch golf. All right, what are you doing on a Saturday night or a Sunday night, even though Saturday nights make it happen night? All right, and then you got your primetime golf. There you go. I'm in. It works.
Great theater, even though maybe the ones that you expected with Koepka and DJ. And DJ was there for most of it. Koepka was terrible yesterday.
Yes, he was. Well, you know why? The sports gods got back at him. Koepka had always been that very confident, it's got a little cockiness to him, but he was right on that line, and he vaults over it after the round on Saturday.
The Saturday presser.
He just vaults over it. I mean, he becomes like McEnroe talking about a second-round opponent in the early 80s at Wimbledon. Like, this guy's got no chance. I mean, Koepka, what do you think? Well, I don't know. I look at that leaderboard. I don't see a whole lot of majors up there.
DJ's got one, but I mean,
he hasn't won it in 4 years.
And it was also
4 years ago.
The DJ comment was also he's got one, but you could feel that he said, but he's choked another 4 away.
He said, but that was 4 years ago, and you're like, dude, you go on vacation with him and his fiance. What the heck? He's one of your best friends on tour. You threw DJ under the bus? Are you kidding me?
The best one, though, is I think it was in the ESPN coverage. Before they started, they did this whole little thing of like what you eat on the course. And I think JT was like, I'll do a couple of peanut butter and bananas and lots of water when I'm playing. They're going through everybody. And they go to Koepka, and he says, 5 pieces of bacon, 4 eggs, and 6 protein shakes. And he starts laughing. He goes, no, come on, you can't do that. And that's the one they showed. He throws more shade at Bryson DeChambeau. I don't care what you think of Koepka, and you may think he's a horse's behind. When I watch that again, the amount of funny things he is blatantly saying about DeChambeau makes me like him more every day. And I will say, watching the Paul Casey interview after, and you got a feel for Casey. He's played the most majors without winning one. He played not good golf. He played great golf for the week.
Best golf he's ever played in a major. And
loses. But he said he couldn't have complimented Koepka enough and about how much he enjoyed playing the round. He goes, and I know Brooks didn't play well, but he really was great to me out there, and I think helped me play well. And I'd never heard anybody say anything good, bad, or indifferent about Koepka as a playing partner, if you will. That I thought was interesting, that Casey just complimented him up and down when he played poorly.
Yeah, I think it's now 64 consecutive majors that, well, not consecutive because Casey hasn't qualified for all of them. He's had a bit of an up and down run here, but 64 majors now that Casey is winless, which is the most of the active players. So, but he played great. Finished T2, though, along with Dustin Johnson. Second place finish in the last 5 majors for DJ. Back-to-back PGAs, he finished second. And he also was a shot back of Tiger in the 2019 Masters. We still got 2 more majors.
Right. That was the first major of the year.
Right. Right. I mean, if that doesn't say 2020.
Right.
You know, we got the U.S. Open in a little over a month. And then remember, mid-November, folks, we've got the Masters. I mean, they're talking about if football season gets moved to the spring, you're going to have a spring football season, and you're going to follow it up later, in theory, with guys could be playing football again 5-6 months later. Well, you're going to have a Masters that's less than 6 months apart, 2 of them. I mean, they're going to play mid-November. They're going to turn around and play early April. I'm fascinated just to see how different the course plays. You got to figure it's going to play very differently, don't you?
Well, most think it'll play a little easier.
Yes.
Be softer. More rains.
And also, how is it going to look?
Gorgeous.
And
no. Gorgeous.
Can you pipe in the same bird noises?
Different birds. You got to have a fall bird now instead of a spring bird.
I know.
Who's doing that? Find out at CBS who's doing bird research on the Masters, David.
That's a hell of a job.
Right. I mean, the dogwoods and azaleas are not having any flowers, so I don't want to see any flowers.
Right. It's going to be leaves and different bird sounds. Work on it, people.
Don't pull this, the grass is going bad, so we're going to spray paint it green crap.
Right. And this isn't the top of someone's head here. Okay, come on now. 479-5551, 479-5551. Good tournament, though.
Loved it.
Good tournament, good fair course. My goodness, there was a par 3 in which they were hitting long irons in.
257 yesterday it played.
DJ's hitting a 3-iron into a par 3. I'm like, look at that.
There
you go.
57.
I like it when there's one hole. There's a couple of clubs in everybody's bag in which they're like, well, I need this hole for blank. I need this club for 11, and I need this club for 17. That's I got to keep it in the bag just for this.
I will say, and I was very happy with Morikawa winning. I like his personality. I love his game. He's a fun guy to watch play. The chip. We're going to talk about the drive forever on 16, but it was the chip on 13 right. Or 14.
Put him in the lead.
That he chipped in. That's the shot that won him the tournament. Because they're talking, maybe he gets up and down, but if he doesn't hit that doesn't go in, maybe it rolls 5 feet past, he's got to make a par putt there. That's the old 53 right there. That doesn't go in. Maybe that's a 5.
When DJ didn't birdie the par 5 10th, because most everybody came through and made 4 there. Not everybody. I think DeChambeau made 5. It's amazing, by the way, how well he keeps finishing in tournaments. And for the most part, he has a half an hour in all of these tournaments, Mark, in which you go, wow, you couldn't screw that up any worse than you did. Man, I mean,
and we all celebrate.
Stretch there. Right. I mean,
and we all celebrate.
He goes bogey on 8-9, and then he's got like 200 yards into a par 5 and makes 5 on a hole that everybody's making 4 on. And you're going, man, you couldn't screw this up anymore if you wanted. And then an hour later, he's shot out of the lead. And you're laughing. You're like, man, you ever put it together? But when
if he makes the putt on 16, David, who knows, right?
You're right. But when DJ, everybody comes through 10 and made birdie, but DJ's still tied for the lead. And I'm thinking, if you birdie 10 and you're still one shot ahead of everybody, I thought DJ was going to, if he birdied 10, I really thought he was going to win.
But I thought
par 10, I went, oh boy, somebody's probably going to catch you now.
A playoff would have been awesome because it was 16, 17, 18.
Right.
I mean, it would have been thrilling if they could have given us a 3-hole. And there's a time there, at one point, you've got 7 guys tied for the lead.
Right.
And you're going, I could have a 3-hole aggregate with 4 or 5 players right now. Let's get this going.
This looks like one of those sudden death we need. All right, 7 guys for 2 spots to get into the Open.
This is the Monday qualifier. Exactly.
But good stuff. And, I'm curious, 479, 55, 51, because obviously Tiger wasn't a factor. Phil's not a factor. Rory not a factor. And those are the 3 biggest games in the sport. And does it matter to you? Does it matter? I mean, the big boys were not a factor. Okay. And yet were you still riveted by it? Are you watching golf? Ratings are up, by the way. PGA Tour ratings are up, and they're up significantly. Golf has won many a weekend of sports so far this year, even with golf beat the NBA last weekend. Forget this weekend with the PGA. Last weekend, the FedEx St. Jude beat the NBA, for what that's worth.
Well, I listened to 2 interviews with Susie Whaley, the president of the PGA, and she talked about the pandemic. Hey, it's awful, all of those things, but we have not seen a rise in golf numbers like this ever. New people to the game. The month of June. I saw something on my vacation, David, that I have never seen before. There were 3 courses in Lake Lure. There were 2 at the resort I was staying at, and then there was a Donald Ross Muni that I passed every day, right on the main drag of me getting back to town. And in front of every green, David, they had a yellow flag with a hole that was probably a foot in diameter. As you talk about the easy golf that Nicholas talks about, I mean, they basically had buckets out there with a pin in them. So you could play the hole to the green, but if you had someone that wasn't good or whatever, they had these yellow flags. And I'm like, I'll be damned. They actually had a setup for people who, I guess, maybe are coming back to the game or starting the game early. I'm like, I'd never seen that before.
Well, if you think about it, golf's not easy. And a lot of people, when they're starting something, you got to have just enough success so that you keep at it. We all joke about hitting that one great shot late in the round. It keeps you coming back. Well, that's for those of us who have played. But if you're in the business of golf, I mean, rounds have been down for 15 years in golf. I mean, they thought that Tiger was going to expand the popularity of golf. Rounds have been down for a long time in this country. There are many more courses that are closing than opening. And it's been that way for a long time. I mean, Nicholas talks about, I have hardly no designs in the United States. All my business is in China and Japan, basically. We're not building courses in the U.S. We're building them everywhere else. And so anything they could do to make it, quote unquote, more fun.
But I'd never seen anything like that on a course before. I mean, that's the reason I brought it. I've heard people talk about it. I've heard Nicholas talk about it. And all of a sudden I'm like, what are these yellow flags? Then I noticed that there was a hole there and it was about a foot in diameter. I'm like, oh, I'll be damned. It must be something for the beginner, if you will.
I'll say this, Mark. Like you said, hey, a guy wins a major. Obviously, he looks great doing it in almost every instance. And when he does it and he's young, you think, oh, wow, what a great future he has. I'll say this, though, about his game. It's difficult for me to imagine he won't win a Masters. because of how precise his iron game is. It's difficult for me. If he doesn't win a Masters, I will be really surprised because he's just long enough. He can reach all the par fives. You know, if he doesn't win a Masters, I will be surprised.
Great iron player.
Because Faldo won 3. You know, Zach Johnson won a Masters. I mean, you know, if your iron game is that good like his is, difficult for me to imagine he won't win there once.
Well, look, it's difficult for me to imagine he can't win anywhere because he hits fairways too. I mean, what do you have to do in a U.S. Open? Make pars, hit fairways, and that's what he does.
What were they saying? I think when he chipped in on 14 and he was tied for took the lead for the first time, and he's on the next tee, and they go, well, he's number 1 in driving and number 1 around the greens this week. That's usually a good combination, guys.
We like to think Miller and Moulton's a good combination. Back from vacation. More vacation stories on twitch.tv. Not this break, though, because one of those stories will be about how the wife's car went kaput during vacation. I'm now going to jump the wife's car so she can take it to the shop. Miller and Moulton, Fox Sports Radio, Auto Mechanics, and streaming live on twitch.tv. Off to jump a car, folks. Talk amongst yourselves.
Wow. I think that's a new car in the family. Good thing we kept the old reliable. Huh. My goodness. My goodness. Let's see how the poll question's doing so far. If you were a university president, you play college football this year. Yes, in the fall is winning at 46%. I would delay it until the spring is last at 26%, but not at all at 28%. Not at all. So about a quarter of you saying I wouldn't play college football at all. You know, we got to get into this. And Phil Steele, by the way, at the top of the hour. But we'll probably get into this here next. But this is going to get very political. Whether it is political or not, it's going to get very political. Because you're going to have university presidents now making the call, and they're going to be making the call, and, you know, we all know the politics in every state. And will there be blowback for that university president, not only because of the internal politics in that university and donors and boosters and all that, but are the university presidents making the call, and are they making it in consultation with governors who think a certain way? This is going to get political, which is, for as much as some of us try to keep our politics out of our sports, I have a feeling that this one, if they cancel college football in the fall without trying, I will be very surprised. I mean, you know, hey, I'll have to admit, hey, I was wrong, because I thought they were going to try. I always thought they were going to try. Too much money at stake. They're going to play. Now, I mean, I did say, hey, you know, they may push it back to spring, but they are playing football this year. I mean, Barry Alvarez is on record as saying Wisconsin loses $100 million if they don't play football. I don't think the University of Wisconsin has Stanford's $28 billion in reserve. So it does make you wonder, by the way, how can Stanford cancel 11 sports when they've got a $27 billion endowment? I mean, what are you doing? What do you have the money in reserve for if you're not going to use it? In the 11 sports that you've canceled, you've had 24 medal winners in the Olympics in those sports come from your university. I mean, what are you doing? But I digress. How is everybody? Hope you've been well these last 9 days. Thanks for waking up with us. So the old standby, the old reliable's getting it done.
The caddy, literally, we get up. Friday to leave. I got the car packed. I backed it out of the driveway. We're ready to go. Car doesn't start. Jump it, I go. Get it jump, I'm out. But I don't turn it off until we get to the hotel. Like, we'll call AAA in the morning if it doesn't start. Started? All right, maybe something was left on, just thinking, all right.
Right.
We're fine Monday, fine Tuesday, fine Wednesday, Thursday. Car kaput. Get AAA over there. Runs Thursday, runs Friday. Or, I'm sorry, Wednesday we got to jump. Runs Thursday, nothing Friday. And then when I met Jake's roommate, we got some cables from him and jumped it Saturday morning, but I didn't turn it off the whole ride home. Like, I didn't turn it off to get gas. Like, we went to rest areas. Someone had to stay with the car. I'm like, I'm not turning the car off. We're getting home. Come
Right.
hell. And so it didn't start today. Now I got the cables on it. She's hopefully going to be able to get it started. Take it in. You're leaving, Frank. You don't have. You can leave. It's okay.
You're live. Halfway through, as it's 30 minutes after the hour, Miller and Moulton. Phil Steele coming up at the top of the hour. Listen, we're going to talk college football with Phil Steele. We're going to go forward as if the college football season is still happening, even though most of the reporting in the last 36 hours is along the lines of sources telling me the college football season is not going to happen in the fall, if at all. And that's our poll question. If you were a university president, because that's who's making this decision now. We said it was going to ultimately come down to these guys, and in some cases, gals. But it's in their hands. And you got certain commissioners that are prodding these presidents to go in a certain direction. You got others that are prodding them to go in a different direction. But if you were a university president, what would you do? Would you play college football in the fall? Would you play it until the spring? Or delay it until the spring? Or would you go, yeah, we ain't playing. This ain't happening this year.
It is crazy. And I figured, I'm not against this question, but I know we have sports fans, and everybody listening to the show desperately wants college football to be played. Nobody more desperately wants to watch it be played than one David Moulton, by the way.
Well, I desperately want the NFL to be played.
Well, there's no doubt there, but you wanted the SEC. You want the SEC to be played too. Make no mistake.
It'd be fine. Yeah.
I mean,
I
since
wouldn't mind it.
just personally here, since the USGA and Fox split up, David needs some NFL and some college football.
Oh, no, Moulton's taking, like many people, Moulton's taking a pounding.
And I was too. I'm a little better than David because my other jobs are working. David's other jobs have gone on hiatus. So there's nobody more than the two of us that wants to play. And the only thing I was against this, because we want football so badly, I figured it would be an overwhelming yes. I figured it would be a blowout in this poll. And here's what I'm surprised at, David. 1 in 4 right now say not at all. 1 in 4 of our listenership is saying not at all.
And less than half are saying play it in the fall.
Yes.
Also.
I'm stunned by this poll question.
So that Mark Miller, the David Moulton on Twitter, millerandmoulton.com is also where you can find the poll question. Quick sidebar on this. If you're the NFL, if in the next week or so, college football in the fall gets canceled, if you're the NFL, you move a game or two to Saturday every week?
Yes. Absolutely.
Because it's not like, it's not like Fox and CBS wouldn't gladly move. I mean, think about it. It's perfect, too. Who are the two main afternoon networks?
CBS
the
and
NFL,
Fox.
They're Fox and CBS. And then Fox has established this big noon kickoff. And CBS has the number one time slot in the sport at 3:30 on Saturdays. And so, here's the problem for ABC/ESPN. They only have the rights to one game a week. It's Monday Night Football. So, CBS and Fox, they each have about 6-7 games a week that they have on their schedule. In theory, they could move one of them to Saturday.
And why wouldn't you?
Right. Now, Fox may very well move it to prime time instead of putting it at noon, even though they have their big noon kickoff. But if you're the NFL at this late date and time, because also you're going to want a little something for your effort here. And the players are going to want a little something for shortening the week. And so, but if you think about what NFL ratings could be this year if we don't have college football.
Oh, I know. Well, and David, one of the things, you mentioned it when we got back into baseball. The advertisers came back.
Yes.
And if you watched golf last night, there was one ad that cracked me up more than any, and I thought they were really well done, but it was just the industry. The frog tape ads. The tape when you paint. And they did it all with some sports things and three-pointers and baseball analogies. They were cute ads. But I laughed at it because I don't ever recall seeing a lot of frog tape ads during sporting events. It's an ad you would see on HGTV.
Right.
But with no sports being played and no one working and everybody at home, well, I'm guessing there's a lot of, home remodeling projects going on. So they went after, I'm like, that's a pretty smart ad. So you're seeing different people jump into the game, which is good for the sports industry. But the advertisers were all there. In fact, if there were any complaints last night about the PGA, was the overwhelming amount of commercials that were aired during the PGA.
Yeah, it's not like the U.S. Open where the final hour of the U.S. Open's commercial free. And my guess is NBC will continue that tradition that Fox had started.
Funny, my guess is that's the last thing I would want to do if I were NBC because, well, I've been losing my tail on everything recently, so I want to make some money.
Well, they can't not make money on golf.
I got you, because Fox is still playing too much of it.
Right. Fox is paying over half of this deal for the next few years. But 479-5551. 479-5551 on the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. Just quickly to wrap this up, Mark, college football was very hesitant for a long time about playing Friday night games because they didn't want to intrude on high school football. High school football's their feeder system, and they wanted to protect it. Remember, it was a big uproar in Big Ten country when the Big Ten network started running the half a dozen Friday night games. There were a lot of coaches even that were like, this is wrong. We should not be playing on Friday nights. Friday nights, high school football, all throughout our state, blah, blah, blah. In other conferences, they were okay with it. If the sports fan and the NFL gets a taste of Saturdays, do they just go back and go, it was a one-time thing. It's a coronavirus year.
I think they do, David, because even though they would beat the college football numbers with whatever they put up, it would crush it, but it would dent the NFL's numbers. They wouldn't do their normal Sunday numbers against big-time college football. There is no way.
But I'm wondering if we get a Saturday night NFL package out of it. If you're the NFL, you look around and you go, ooh, another revenue stream, maybe a way to get another network involved. Does the Saturday night primetime college football game go away? Now, there are a lot of college football fans that don't like the games on Saturday nights. They want them played in the afternoon. And we had some really big games last year, Mark, that were played in the afternoon that did tremendous ratings, being played at either noon or 3:30. In fact,
they reestablished noon as a slot for football because it had always been the bad Big Ten game on ESPN2. I mean, we all know we get Illinois versus Indiana and Michigan State against Purdue on ESPN and ESPN2 while we wait for 3:30 when the good games start. Well, that ended.
No, Fox established the big noon last year in a big way. Put their best games at noon. And it worked. And so I'm just wondering if the NFL all of a sudden gets a taste of Saturdays, will the NFL just go back and say, we just did that for a year. The sports fans were jonesing. It was a chance for us to make a little money. Or do Jerry and Bob Kraft and Roger go, how about a Saturday night primetime NFL game?
Still the worst night of TV of the week, and I don't think the NFL would want to go after that night. They've got Thursday and Sunday, the two best nights, and I don't know if Monday's the third best night, but they already have the two best television nights, and they own them. I don't think that will change too much.
479-5551, 479-5551. Mark, do you think politics, not sports politics, but politics, do you think politics is playing a role in the decisions that are about to be made with big-time college football?
Yes, I do. I don't know how you can't think that. I mean, clearly just looking at the red versus blue states and what's going on, it seems incredibly apparent that that's exactly what's going on.
Well, if that's the case, and I feel as if I'm a lawyer, and this is my Law and Order moment.
No, and I know where you're going. I know where. Look, I'm the witness on the stand, and I know what you're trying to do here, and I'm okay with it.
And I was counting on that answer.
I know you were, and I
worried asking it because you could have gone in a different direction, and that really would have screwed my whole argument.
I got you, but I played along, but two, I actually believe it to be true.
If that is the case, Big Ten, Pac-12 country, a lot of Democratic governors.
Yep.
Okay, and more liberal if you look at blue states versus red states and what have you. Okay, fine. Well, that's not the case in Big 12 country.
Or SEC country.
There's 11 states in SEC country, 10 Republican governors. Kentucky, I believe, the only Democratic governor of the 11. And ACC country. I mean, do we want to rip through the states there? I mean, there are a few Democratic governors.
North Carolina's one, and that's a lot of schools in That's a lot of schools, just for the record.
And I think Virginia. Okay, also, I think. So, but if, in fact, politics is playing a role, and you believe it is, and I am guessing, Mark, that a majority of our audience agrees with you.
Do you agree with me, for the record?
Well, I think we're going to find out. Because if politics is playing a role, well, then aren't the university presidents in the Big 12 and the SEC and at least half of the ACC going to be like, yeah, we got to play? I'm getting it from all sides. I got the governor calling me going, we got to play. I got my AD. I got the conference committee. I mean, Bowlesby, Swafford, and Sankey want to play. Or I'm pretty confident of that. Those three committees. You think John Swafford wants his final year in the ACC after 30 years to go down like this? Okay, Bob Bowlesby's on the record of saying he wants to play. Sankey's on the record of saying he wants to play. All right, so you got the conference commissioners. You've got an overwhelming majority of the governors who are Republican. An overwhelming majority of the states in those conferences that are red. So then why if you believe politics is playing a role here, well, then wouldn't the university presidents in those conferences vote to play? So I think we find out. That's what's surprising me, Mark, that all the reporting that's gone on in the last 24 hours is like, well, the university presidents of all the conferences are going to force the conference commissioners to not play. Really? In Texas? Arkansas?
Alabama?
Right.
I mean, David,
Tommy Tuberville's going to win a Senate seat by 10 points in Alabama.
And I
just let that ruminate for a while.
I literally said to my son and I talked about this on vacation. I said, Jake, would it surprise you at all with what you've seen in Alabama if not only did they play football, but they said they're going to fill the stands? I'm not joking around. This is not a flippant comment.
No, they've yet to talk about, by the way, percentage in Alabama. No, they're still talking about playing and everybody's showing up.
And Texas was at 50% a week ago.
I mean, I believe Tennessee is full speed ahead with high school football. Now, if I'm wrong, please, 479-5551 on the text line or in the twitch.tv chat room. But I'm pretty sure Tennessee's still full steam ahead with high school football. That's another interesting part of this to me, Mark. We talked about optics over the last 5 months. Could you play football and not have students on campus? Well, how will it look for college football if in your state they're playing high school football on Friday nights and they're playing NFL on Sunday, but Tennessee and Vandy, we're done. We can't play.
If you look at, what's going on sports-wise, because we're playing AAU hoop, we're playing Little League baseball, Pop Warner's about to start. The difference with all of those associations is that they're run by parents and coaches. And that's the part of the college football argument that's fascinating. Because Trevor Lawrence, who if he sat out next year, if college football was normal and Trevor Lawrence decided to sit out the year, he would be the number 1 pick in the 2021 draft. And I don't think anybody can even argue that point. Yet he's the one leading the crusade to play. And that we want to play hashtag, which was trending heavily yesterday on Twitter. After the Pac-12 players all wanted to unionize, it seems that the other 4 conferences all want to play, no matter what.
Right. And it seems like the players in the Big Ten, they're like, could you give us a chance? Can you let us try? That's the other thing that they're saying. Hey, we feel for the most part we got this under control. Okay, can we at least try? Why do you have to cancel it on us now? So now you could make the argument, getting back to the politics. I mean, university presidents, you could certainly, if we want to all throw them in a pot together, you could label the group as left-leaning. I think that would be fair. Academia is regarded as more left-leaning than right-leaning. It's not obviously the case everywhere. I don't think it's the case with the current FGCU president either. But if we had to label them, so this is an interesting dynamic, Mark. In 3 of the 5 conferences, you're in largely red states with overwhelmingly Republican governors, with commissioners who want to play. And yet you've got university presidents who may be left-leaning, and it's ultimately their call.
Miller and Moulton. Phil Steele, arguably the premier authority on college football in the nation, joins us in 15 minutes. And we are going to act as if we're full steam ahead with college football, because I cannot have another conversation with this guy any other way. We're going to break teams down. We're not going to get into schedules and games because we don't know what they are. But we're going to act as if we're playing football. Today was the day when is next. Phil Steele in less than 15 minutes. Miller and Moulton, Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com, and you are looking live on twitch.tv.
Drive home with the Doug Gottlieb Show.
The LA Chargers and Jerry Bosa reached a 5-year, $135 million contract extension. So what happened yesterday with the LA Chargers is in direct correlation to the fact that they are going to have a quarterback with a rookie contract for the next 4 years.
Doug Gottlieb, afternoons at 3 on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Dial star 2020, friends I care.
Attention teachers, community heroes, both current and retired. France I Care would like to express their appreciation for all that you have done and all that you continue to do for the Southwest Florida community. And that's why we're offering $1,500 off bilateral LASIK starting now until Patriot Day. All teachers, EMTs, firefighters, police officers, and critical care workers in hospitals and minor emergency clinics are eligible to receive this benefit now through September 11th. Dr. Jonathan France and his expert team of surgeons want to help you experience better vision and a better life without the hassle of contacts and those steamy old glasses. Take advantage, $1,500 off LASIK by dialing ** 2020 from your mobile phone and schedule your free LASIK screening today. Thank you, teachers and first responders. You're the heroes.
Friends I care.
Dial ** 2020 from your mobile phone.
Are you ready to take your game and athletic training to the next level? Looking to improve your speed, posture, endurance, conditioning, and mental training for tennis or any sport? Reach your star potential at Academia Sanchez Casal, Florida, and Naples. Operated by tennis superstars. Olympic silver medalist Emilio Sanchez and Arantxa Sanchez, the former world champ with 14 Grand Slam titles. You won't get this level of training anywhere else. And now expanded to include highly stylized off-court hydro pool programs for ages 10 and up. World-class athletic trainer and founder of Hydro Athletics, Stephen DeViti, will coach you or your child through a unique program of high-intensity, low-impact, results-driven hydro athletic training using the latest in resistance technology and equipment, safely in compliance with CDC guidelines. Group or one-on-one sessions, short and long-term programs for beginners through elite professional athletes of any sport. Step up your game and enroll now. Find Stephen DeViti Hydro Athletics on Instagram or visit asc-florida.com.
For over 20 years, the Good Feet store has been helping people with foot pain get back to doing what they love without their feet getting in the way. Call 552-FEET or visit us at the Good Feet store in Naples or our newest location in Fort Myers.
When we talk the talk,
This is what we talk about.
He's talking about right and wrong.
we back it up.
Talk about what you know.
We're Fox Sports Radio. And when we talk the talk,
A lot of sports stuff to talk about.
we back it up.
Good sports talk radio.
On Fox Sports Radio.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Dan Martineau here, owner of D.R. Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. We're still finding a lot of roofs with hurricane and windstorm damage.
You know what the funny thing is with the PGA getting played this past weekend? That's the weekend right around that the PGA was played. Most, you know.
No, yeah, the PGA was pretty close to the normal PGA time, right?
Right.
So, little factoid for you.
You're very overmodulated in my headset. Are you? I don't know if that's a me thing.
I think that's a you thing.
Okay.
I haven't changed anything.
Gotcha.
Little interesting factoid for everybody. Lake Lure is where about 40% of the movie Dirty Dancing was filmed.
Huh.
And I've never seen the movie. Now I have to watch it. But the scene where he holds her up in the water was done. First off, that lake is cold in August. Let me just explain that to you. It's cold. For me, the lake was freezing.
Well,
but it's mountain water.
Now.
No, but I mean, it's a cool lake. This is mountains coming, fed in from the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he's holding her over the head, that's filmed in November. Apparently, they were both on the verge of hypothermia shooting that scene. The director wanted to do it another time, in which both Jennifer Grey and Swayze are like, ain't happening.
Right.
This is Miller and Moulton. You're live.
Bill Steele to talk college football. Yes, we are a glass half full show. Bill Steele in 10 minutes time here on Miller and Moulton.
I'm just saying, before we get into this unsponsored segment, the other unsponsored segment that I do at the end of the show, I just want everybody to know, we went from, you, the listeners, not me, not Mr. Positivity. I wanted to keep it the good, the better, and the best. But you thought everything was hunky-dory, and we could just go on with what we were doing. You changed it, and everything's gone to hell in a handbasket since then.
I don't think it was that they thought everything was hunky-dory. I just think they like their snark. They do.
Time now for
Miller and Moulton's Today Was the Day When, giving you the history of today's date so you're a beacon of useless knowledge around the office.
Useless, but a lot of fun to talk about.
This is Today Was the Day When, Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Brought to you by the Captain's Cabin, where you can get stabbed in the parking lot and laid in the bathroom. The Captain's Cabin.
Hey, take it easy now, big fella.
We start in 1888, where New York Giant pitcher Tim Keefe sets a 19-game winning streak record. Babe Ruth announced today in 1934 it would be his final season as a full-time player. We always marvel at the great pitching of Maddox and Greg Maddox and so few pitches. In 44, Braves' Red Barrett throws 58 pitches to shut out the Cincinnati Reds 2-0.
Boy, talk about a team that wouldn't work the count. I mean, my goodness, they had a flight to catch.
Absolutely, like that guy that had the first that played with the marker yesterday that played in 253. ABC started today as a network television. WJZ in New York started, and one of the first shows was Candid Camera.
Huh.
Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho premiered today, 60 years ago.
Ooh.
Harmon Killebrew back in 71 was the 10th to get to 500 home runs for kicks and giggles. He had a second one to get to 501 today. Jack wins his 4th PGA in 75 at Firestone. Off the Wall is released in 1979 today. Michael Jackson's best album. I'll fight anybody that says differently. Better than Thriller. Didn't sell more, but it's a better album. 1980, Jack wins his 5th PGA at Oak Hill. Pete Rose breaks Stan Musial's National League hit record today in 81. 2008, Oakland Hills, Potty gets his 2nd straight major, beating Ben Curtis and Sergio by 2. And Michael Phelps that same day wins the 400 individual medley with world record time. Rory won the PGA in 2014, and it was a year ago that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. If you were born today, you share your birthday with Herbert Hoover, born today in 1874, our 31st president.
I went to Herbert Hoover Junior High School.
So you knew he was the 31st president then?
I did.
Leo Fender, born today in 1909, did something with guitars. This one called the Stratocaster might ring true. Ronnie Spector, very kooky American singer, born today in 1943. Ian Anderson, the only person making good on his mother making him play the flute, born today in 1947. Rosanna Arquette is 61. Antonio Banderas is 60, as is our buddy, friend of the show, Kenny Perry, 60 years old today. John Starks is 55. Riddick Bowe is 53. And another friend of the show, Gino Tortoretta, 50 years old today. That is, today was the day when, brought to you by the Captain's Cabin.
1 minute.
Riddick Bowe, an underrated fighter. Those Bowe, Holyfield, that trilogy, it doesn't get enough respect, quite frankly. The heavyweight division, a lot of people feel that basically post Ali and therefore post Tyson, and Holyfield, Bowe were really post Tyson. And so everybody who came afterward, they don't get enough regard. That Holyfield, Bowe trilogy is phenomenal.
I think you're absolutely right. It is a very underrated trilogy when we look at the fight game. It doesn't get nearly the respect that it deserves. One guy that gets all the respect he deserves is Phil Steele. And he will join us next to talk about college football being played in the fall like we expect.
Right.
I don't care what's going on because that's how we're dealing with it. Phil Steele next. Miller and Moulton, Fox Sports Radio.
I was just going to add, can you believe that's Rory's last major?
Yeah, I know.
6 years ago.
I know. And you got on the boat. That's where I was going to. I know.
6 years. I mean, because he won the British and the PGA back-to-back. And the odds and the money. Hey, Rory's not going to win a major for another 6 years. It would have been like, yeah, okay, all right. How much money can I scrounge up?
His streak's longer. When did Tiger win? What's the break between the broken leg and...
No, Tiger went 08 to 2019.
Okay,
Tiger
so went 11. Sorry. And Rory's now at 6, if he doesn't. And he's not... Look, at David, I'm sorry. I don't see when he wins anytime. He can't putt. He cannot putt. And you watch these guys, when they start missing, their confidence is shaken. I mean, I knew JT was going to play hard because he wanted to keep his number one. But when he let the F-bomb drop on the third hole, when he missed 3 straight putts.
Sports FM on TuneIn.
LeBron has shown his greatness. Kevin
Well,
Durant's a better player.
Sorry, I don't know that
it's
one.
funny. Rory's got a Thursday-Friday problem in the majors, but Spieth has a weekend problem.
You're an idiot. Nice job.
Spieth can't play well. It doesn't matter what his score is. When Spieth gets to Saturday, he sucks. He threw a round together yesterday, but he shot him. I mean, Spieth is a problem on the weekend.
No, and he actually his was weird because he played bad on Thursday and Saturday. He played good on Friday and Sunday this week. Because he had a bad Thursday round. He had to shoot 3 under to make the cut.
Right. But Rory cannot get off to good starts in the majors. He's around the cut line as opposed to being around the leaderboard. But think about this. Phil won the 20.
Am I calling Phil Steele or is he calling me?
No, Phil's calling you. John texted.
Here's what's trending now.
Think about it. Phil won the 2013 British.
John texted you because I have no text from John.
Okay. Phil's calling you on your phone.
Okay.
But you think about how relevant is Phil. Well, Phil won the 2013 British, and Phil lost the great shootout with Stenson, I think, at the 2017 British. I mean, Rory won the 2014 PGA. I mean, Phil hasn't won a major in 7 years.
Good morning, Phil.
Morning.
How are you? Mark Miller here with David Moulton. Thank you so much, as always.
Hey, a real pleasure, guys. How the heck are you?
We're doing good, and we're going to act as if football's being played. I can't do this interview with you, Phil, and talk about no football. I just son of a gun, man. Rough weekend.
Yeah, rough weekend. I was pretty bullish on everything heading into it, but now you wonder a little bit. But yeah, if football's being played, then we're all happy.
That's it. That is absolutely it. We're about, not even 30 seconds. Oh, there you go. Here we go.
Up in the morning.
How the heck are you?
Yep, that's it. Miller.
Since we can't sit next to one another, I was thinking about the first break, toasting my English muffin and saying, hey, it's English muffin time during the starting five.
And Moulton.
Love BOGO English muffins. You throw one on the counter, you throw the other in the freezer.
There you go.
For a week, then you take it out. When you've got BOGO, it's like, hey, knock yourself out.
Broadcasting live from the Kobe Cooling Remote Studios, where it's always cool and comfortable.
Oh, I like it. It's up to you now. It's up to you. I like it.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Couple minutes past the top of the hour. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton, thanks so much for being with us. First show back from vacation. And we came back today because we knew we had Phil Steele. And he's kind enough to join us right now, home of the Phil Steele College Football Preview. You can follow Phil on Twitter at Phil Steele 042. Phil, top of the morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, guys. Doing okay, I guess. It's a little shattering news over the weekend, but we'll see what happens.
It certainly was. I had a long drive back from vacation. I got out of the car and went, what the hell happened in these 11 hours? But we're going to, at least for these minutes that we spend with you, Phil, try to act like Saturday and Sunday didn't happen and that these Power 5 conferences are going to go on with football. As always, you start preparing the minute the season ends. But just a general question, how far ahead are Ohio State, Clemson, and Alabama than everyone else right now?
You know, I think the gap narrowed, especially in the ACC this year. You take a look at Clemson. Last year it was Clemson, a Grand Canyon, and then I can't even name the second best team in the ACC last year. I don't know if there was one. Whereas this year you look at the ACC, and a team like North Carolina has 17 returning starters, including Sam Howell. Miami of Florida added De'Ara King from Houston, who had 50 touchdowns at Houston in 2018, and then sat out most of last year. Plus, they bring in Quincy Roche from Temple, who was the American Conference Defensive Player of the Year. I think Miami is my number one most improved team in the country. Virginia Tech, 17 returning starters for them, and they got a lot better once Hendon Hooker took over at QB. And Pitt had 3 guys turn down the NFL and opt to return, plus get 2 injured players back. So I thought the gap between Clemson and the rest of the ACC really narrowed this year. And then you throw in Notre Dame into the mix, and it's going to be a competitive conference. I think with Ohio State, they're going to have their hands full with Penn State this year. Penn State's a loaded squad, very experienced. That game's in Happy Valley. And then with Alabama, Georgia, Florida, LSU, and even Texas A&M are all threats this year. So I do think that the gap has narrowed a little bit.
You can follow Phil on his website at philsteele.com and also on Twitter at philsteele042. And we'll get into how you can order his college football preview and where you can pick it up coming up in a bit. Phil, do you think spring football is viable? All right. Do you think that it will work if they play it in the spring? Because my first thought as you were talking about the elites was, well, they're the ones that are going to have guys go, yeah, I ain't playing in the spring because we got this NFL combine, NFL draft thing, and I'm not going to damage my stock. So that in theory, the elites could be brought even closer to the rest of the pack if we play in the spring, because they may lose their elite players. Do you think playing big-time college football in the spring is viable?
I think it's going to be tough, and there won't be a Trevor Lawrence, there won't be a Travis Etienne, but we've seen a lot of players opting out already, from this year. A lot of the big-name stars have been opting out, and you wonder how many more are going to opt out if we play in the fall. Also, the thing I wonder about is if we do play in the spring, we're basically jeopardizing next football season, because how do you recover on just 1 or 2 months in between seasons? I think it's tougher for football. You almost need that 6 months, 8 months off, and all the conditioning that goes with it just to recover from the previous football season. So I think it'd be a pretty tough go to have spring practice this year. They'd almost be better off if they do opt to not play in the fall, to almost sit out the spring and just go brand new for 2021.
Boy, oh boy, with the Matt Canson, I know it ends up turning this way. I don't know how some of these colleges even survive if that is the case. I don't mean just the athletic department for that matter. When you look at the quarterback position in the SEC, where do you have Kyle Trask?
I've got him second team. I do go with Kellen Mond, number one this year. I think Kellen Mond's going to have a big year for Texas A&M. He's a guy that really worked hard in the offseason. He's got a great surrounding cast. I think he has all the tools you want at 6'3", 217. He's mobile. He can throw the football well. He had 62% last year, and I think he's poised to have his biggest season. Now, at Trask, you got to think the arrow's pointed way high up with him because – Kyle Trask didn't even start a game in high school, so he's thrown into the fire in college with his first start and then did extremely well, had a 25-7 ratio. And let's face it, there's going to be huge improvement now with his second full year of playing.
Phil, do you think the two teams that you talked about there, Mond with A&M and Trask with Florida, do you think that their rosters, you look back and we didn't think LSU was going to finish first in the West last year, but when you look at the talent that they had the talent to finish first. When you look at A&M and you look at Florida, do you see them even with, in A&M's case, Bama/LSU, and in Florida's case, has their roster caught up to Georgia's?
I'm going to say yes. And when you look at Florida, they definitely have a top 10 defense. You look at players like Slayton and Moon up front, Trey Dean at the star position, Marco Wilson at corner. And then offensively, remember last year they only had one returning starter on the offensive line. Now it's a more veteran offensive line. Trask firmly in place at QB. I do think Florida and Georgia are pretty much dead even. And with Texas A&M, I know they lost 5 games last year, but in my conversation with Coach Jimbo Fisher last year, I liked the way he was building the team. They had 2 great recruiting classes. Now they've had 3 great recruiting classes. And going through the team with them last year, 2 things stood out. Number one was the lack of seniors they had on the team. They only had 4 or 5 seniors on the entire squad, so they were young. And then they had a brutal schedule. And remember, they played 3 number 1 ranked teams. Clemson, Alabama, LSU were all number 1 when they played them. They played number 4 Georgia, number 8 Auburn, and they lost those games. This year, the schedule gets a little easier. I mean, they did just pick up Florida and Tennessee as a couple of crossover games, which are pretty tough. But I had, prior to that, A&M favored in every game but one, and I had that last year, LSU favored in every game but one, and that one was the same game, a trip to Tuscaloosa.
With the Gators, it's never really been, and it's good to see that their line is getting back because it was a bit of an issue last year. But with the Gators, it's not necessarily been their line. It's certainly not been their defense. It's been, and even the quarterback, okay, they've not been great. But there hasn't been a guy on offense that when you look at the Gators, you go, wow, we have to game plan around him. Who are the game breakers that you see for Florida? Because it is the big monster plays for the Gators have really lacked in recent years.
Yeah, and I think at the wide receiver spot, maybe Kadarius Toney can emerge this year. He's not had a huge year, but did average 19.4 yards per catch last year, and in just 7 games. I remember he had that broken wrist. I think he's ready for a breakout year. Of course, Kyle Pitts is a guy at tight end who is one of the best tight ends in the entire country. But I think Florida's going to need a running game to emerge. There were games last year where Dan Mullen unapologetically said they weren't even going to try to run the ball. They just want to throw the football. They need a running back to emerge. And whether that's Lingard, the transfer from or Damian Pierce or Malik Davis, they definitely need a running back to come out of the mix.
Phil, you mentioned you had Miami as the most improved team in the country heading into this year. What is it that you see? Because let's face it, their coach was lucky to see year 2. That's how bad year 1 went.
Yeah, I think to me the biggest thing is the quarterback position. Last year they were very poor at quarterback. They struggled, whether it was Williams, whether it was Perry Hill. They even threw in Tate Martell into the mix there. But De'Ara King is a guy that just excites me. I mean, you go back to the year he had at Houston, 2018. He missed 2 games, but he still had 36 touchdowns passing, another 14 touchdowns rushing, dangerous in both areas. And I think he's an instant upgrade to that offense. They've got a veteran line. They've got another one of the teams with the best tight ends in the country in Brevin Jordan. And as mentioned, defensively, they had in Quincy Roche. So I think this is a Miami team ready to make a jump this year.
How about the Noles? They have been a mess. And you talked about the Gator offensive line. I mean, Florida State hasn't had one in 2 years. And as you look at that ACC, it's better. How much better is Florida State?
I think they'll be better this year. Well, let's face it, they can't be any worse.
Right.
Last year they were 6-7. Marvin Wilson coming back was huge, I thought. Marvin Wilson is a guy who would have been a first-round draft pick. He solidifies that defensive line. They got 10 starters back on the D-line. And the thing I like about the Mike Norvell offense is it works best when they've got electrifying skill players. Well, they've got DJ Matthews, Jashawn Corbin, and Scary Terry at the receivers. So they've got those players. James Blackman's a veteran QB. Florida State hasn't had a good offensive line maybe in 6 years. I mean, it's been a long time. They've really struggled there. And that's the area that's going to have to get firmed up. I don't think they're ready to challenge with the big boys quite yet, but they'll definitely have a much better year.
All right, let's get away from the Power Fives for a moment. You told us last year, you said, all right, that the team that had the best chance to run the table as a group of 5 you thought was App State. And it turned out they got the game that you thought they might lose, but then they tripped themselves up a little bit later on. Is there a group of 5 team that you look at and you think, if we play this year, they've got a real good chance of putting a donut on the board?
Yeah, well, and last year, the team I had picked to get to the New Year's Day 6 bowl game was Memphis, and which was surprising because UCF plays in their same division. And as it was, Memphis did get to the New Year's Day 6 and played Penn State. This year, my pick is clearly UCF. And as last year, I was down on UCF. I actually had Cincinnati winning their division, which was a shocker because UCF had been undefeated the previous 2 years in the regular season. But this year, they are loaded. 8 starters back on offense, and they've got 3 capable QBs, especially if Mackenzie Milton is able to come back and play this year. But if not, they've got Dylan Gabriel, they've got Mack at QB. So they're in good situation there. They're very deep at running back with McCray, Anderson, Thompson, dangerous receivers, veteran offensive line. And defensively, they may have five secondary players on the Senior Bowl watch list. So, I mean, they are loaded in the secondary as well. I think UCF, when you look at them, has a great shot at running the table this year.
And obviously, we'll see if anything happens with, the ACC said they're going to play one non-conference game. Who knows if they end up getting, they had North Carolina coming to them. Who knows if they get one of their games against an ACC opponent at some time or how that's going to work out for UCF. I want to go back to the SEC because, Florida and Georgia are neck and neck. How big of a year is this for Kirby? The talent had been there, but, when you graduate your whole offensive line and you lose two running backs and your top receiver, they lost, and a quarterback. That whole offense is depleted. Alabama's done this from time to time, and they just retool because they're Alabama. Well, that's what Georgia thinks that they are. They're not there yet. How much is this retooling going to be retooling or just lining them up and going again?
Yeah, I think my major question with Georgia on offense is not really the skill players. It's the offensive line because Sam Pittman's gone. I thought Sam Pittman was one of the best offensive line coaches in the country. They lose 3.5 starters on the offensive line. And let's face it, the offensive line's been their strength for years. How quickly that unit comes together, I think, is going to be the key. But, they brought in Matt Luke on the offensive line. I thought he did a great job in the bowl game. They were down 3 offensive linemen. And still outplayed Baylor, and Baylor had a really good defensive front. The quarterback is not a question. Jamie Newman is there from Wake Forest, 6'4", 220. This guy's going to be a high NFL draft pick. J.T. Daniels started as a true freshman at USC. They are loaded there. You look at running backs. Amir White was my number one running back out of high school. Now, last year, he was just 1 year removed from ACL. Now he's another year removed. That's usually when you see him come into form. They've got James Cook and Kenny McIntosh at running back. And remember, last year they lost all their receivers. Well, at least this year they have some experienced receivers, and they've got talent. So it's a more experienced receiving core. I think the offensive line is going to be the key for Georgia.
Whether it's the fall or the spring, all right, you want to get a hold of Phil's college football preview. Phil, how can people get it?
I appreciate that. We did a limited quantity this year, so it's only in 2 places, Barnes & Noble and Books A Million. So if you're used to driving around and getting it everywhere, because we print a couple 100,000, very limited printing this year, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, or you could go online to philsteele.com. That's STEELE.com. So Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, philsteele.com.
It's one of the 2 purchases that we make on our Miller and Moulton credit card every year. That's I think the SoundCloud to renew the podcast and 2 purchases of the magazine every year. That's the big expense for this show, making sure we have Phil Steele's magazine. Phil,
I appreciate it.
Oh, hey, we appreciate it. We appreciate the time that we spend with you. You mentioned Penn State in the Big Ten. What about Michigan? They have been dying to win a Big Ten. They're not there yet. Will they ever get there? And is this the year, or are they a year away? Where is the Mighty Blue?
They're at least a year away. I thought if Michigan was going to win the Big Ten, it was last year. The window was wide open. You look at what Ohio State was going through. We talked about Florida having a young O-line. Ohio State had 1 returning starter on the O-line. They had a brand-new quarterback. They lose Urban Meyer and replace him with Ryan Day. That 2018 Ohio State team gave up over 400 yards on defense. So there were major question marks on the defensive side of the ball. I had all kinds of questions about Ohio State, and they had to travel to face Michigan on the road, a veteran Michigan team. What happened? Well, Ohio State won that game 56-27. Now Ohio State has a veteran offensive line, a veteran quarterback. Ryan Day is in his second year. Excuse me. And Michigan drops all the way down to number 130 on the experience chart from number 43. If they were going to win the Big Ten, it was last year. They won't win it this year. Now, I'm not saying they can't win it in the future, but I think that window was wide open last year, and it's shut this year.
All right. We asked you how close is A&M to the top of their division in Florida to Georgia. You think Penn State's close to Ohio State?
I do. When you look at Penn State, I love the way James Franklin's been building this team. You go back to his first year, and I've talked to him all 7 years he's been there. The first year, they were depth shy. They were coming off probation. They had walk-ons in the 2 deep, for crying out loud. Well, now this year, going over the team with them, they are 3 deep at every position. I'm not just talking players' names. I'm talking about highly touted guys who, if they were to see the field, they'd be okay. I mean, we're all top players out of high school. They're basically a 3 deep team. They go 6 deep at running back. They've got a veteran quarterback in Sean Clifford. They have my number 8 defensive line in the country, and in fact, almost all their units rank in my top 20. I do think Penn State has the talent to hang with Ohio State. Now, this year they get Ohio State at home. How much of a crowd will be there in Happy Valley? I think if it was normal whiteout conditions, they'd have an even better shot at knocking off the Buckeyes.
The other side of the Big Ten, it's basically been Wisconsin, and a team's going to give them a run. Last year it was Minnesota. Who is it this year that has the best shot to knock Wisconsin off the West pedestal?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And remember, last year Wisconsin actually led Ohio State 21-10 at the half of the Big Ten title game. A lot of folks forget that. I think the teams in the mix would be Iowa, Northwestern, and Minnesota. But I'm going to talk about Northwestern. When I look at Northwestern, they were just 3-9 last year with a woeful offense. And but the thing is, a lot of folks forget Northwestern had been 15-1 in Big Ten play the previous 2 years. And Pat Fitzgerald hasn't forgotten how to coach. They got 19 returning starters coming back. They needed an upgrade at quarterback. They got it. They bring in Indiana transfer Peyton Ramsey. Mentioned 19 returning starters. You know, there was nothing wrong with Northwestern's defense last year. It was a top 20 defense despite their record. Patty Fisher at linebacker, the leader of that unit, and almost the entire defense is back. So now, with improved quarterback play and improved offense, I think Northwestern's going to surprise a lot of folks this year.
Was there a bigger opt-out in college football than the wide receiver at Minnesota? Because, you know, it's not often that yet Minnesota has a first-round draft pick at wide receiver. And you know, I just look, when he opted out, I went, oh, damn, that could be the difference. That could be 2 games in the standings, I thought, Phil.
Yeah, and last year with Minnesota, when you lined up on the field, you had Tyler Johnson and Rashad Bateman that you had to guard, a couple of NFL-caliber receivers, and that made it difficult to defend that offense. Well, as you mentioned, they lost Tyler Johnson in the NFL. Now with Bateman sitting out, your top receiver coming out back is Chris Ottman-Bell, and as opposed to having 1,300 and 1,200 yards like Johnson and Bateman did, Bell only had 371 yards last year. So with that downgraded receiving core for Minnesota, only 4 returning starters on defense, and they had a lot of close wins last year too, especially early on. I think Minnesota probably takes a step back this year.
You know, this is usually a question I ask to guests when we talk on Sundays. But because there was no spring ball this year, for all of the teams that have new coaches, how behind the 8 ball are they? And is there a team that maybe when you were writing the magazine and getting ready to do it and planning on spring ball being played, you maybe thought a little more highly of, that now you look at new coach, new systems, not the practice time, that this is going to affect them even more?
Yeah, 2 teams jump out to me there, and that would be Michigan State and Mississippi State. And you go to Michigan State, for example, Coach D'Antonio stepped down late. It was after the signing class was already signed in February. And then they had scrambled around for a week or 2 to find their new head coach, which was Mel Tucker. Mel Tucker comes over to Michigan State, and I think 2 factors are really important this year. Experience is one of them. You need to have an experienced team with the lack of spring. Guess what? Michigan State's one of the least experienced teams in the country. Only 10 returning starters this year. And then the late start for Mel Tucker, 0 spring practices. Talking to Coach Tucker, going over the team with them, he hadn't even seen these guys on the field yet. So you have an inexperienced team with a first-year head coach. Those are going to really struggle this year. The other one is Mississippi State. And Mike Leach is a guy that likes to throw the football around the yard. I mean, he leads the nation every year in highest percentage of passes. He's taken over a Mississippi State offense that, let's face it, they ran the ball. Their quarterbacks are more known for running than throwing. Their offensive line, big old guys that can run block. Can they pass block is the question. And now you're trying to drastically change the scheme and do it with the benefit of 0 spring practices and a brand new head coach and a somewhat inexperienced team as well. They only have 11 returning starters coming back. So I think of the new head coaches, Mike Leach and Mel Tucker are the 2 that probably step into the hardest situations.
Is there anyone in Oklahoma's area code? We've been talking for years about Texas being back. Is there anybody who's got anything for Oklahoma?
Yeah, I think Texas and Oklahoma State both can hang there. And you look at Oklahoma State, they had Chuba Hubbard turn down the NFL and opt to return after a 2,000-yard season. Tylan Wallace turned down the NFL, opted to return after being a Blitnikoff finalist. They had a redshirt freshman quarterback last year, and they got 10 starters back on D. But here's why I like Texas to be that team to really challenge them. You know, I know Ellinger came out last year and said, we're back, but they only had 8 returning starters. They were very inexperienced last year. And then their defense got hit hard by injuries. At one point, they were down 4 defensive backs midseason. Well, this year they have 9 returning starters on defense. And all those guys that were forced to play last year due to the injuries give them even more experience than that. Offensively, how about 7 returning starters, including Sam Ellinger? This is a much more experienced team. And the big question is, can these guys play with Oklahoma? Well, let's go back to the regular season. For the last 6 years, they have played Oklahoma within 1 score in the 6 games. In fact, they've won 2 of the 6 games. So Texas has proven they can play with Oklahoma on a yearly basis. They've been tight every single year with them, and I think they're a much more experienced team this year.
Yesterday, we watched the college football players attempt to organize, and it seems like, you know, in the social media world, they got a lot of momentum in 24 hours. What scares college athletic directors and presidents more? Missing this season or college football players organizing?
Boy, that's a heck of a question. It's you know, if it's a organization like right now where they're trying to come together to play football and all they want to do is make sure that the COVID testing and stuff is done, that's all good. But I think once they do go down the Union Road, and if they do, that could lead to a lot of problems. So I think both. There are a lot of problems right now with the presidents in college football, and that's why I think they're toying with what they're toying with.
Phil, final question for me. It's one that Mark and I have kicked around a couple times over the last year. If you go back 10 years ago today, Clemson was coming off of a 6-7 season with an unproven coach still in Dabo. We all know what they've become since. And so we have just wondered, is there somebody? Now, Clemson had a moment or two before this Renaissance period here, but is there a school that you look at and you go, you know, they ever got the right coach? They ever put it together? I've always thought this was a sleeping giant. Is there somebody out there that in 2030, Phil, if we're all lucky enough 10 years from now to be talking again, that we will look back and go, you know, I kind of saw this school coming even before they did?
Well, I think for this year, I would say Texas A&M. Now, I don't know if Jimbo's going to be there 10 years from now, but he's bringing in these tremendous recruiting classes. I do think the potential is there for Michigan to vault back up and get to the top of college football, and those would be the two. Michigan, I'd say for 2030, and then I'm going to go Texas A&M for the next couple of years has a chance to step right in, as does Penn State. Once again, I don't think James Franklin's going to be there in 2030, but in the next 5 years, can Penn State become a power? I'm saying yes.
On that note, one of the parts of your magazine that I always enjoy and you've had a great track record with, and I'll finish with this, is your most improved teams. This is where if people, you know, if we had normal years with over-unders, Phil has been right on with his most improved teams. Who are the teams you're looking at? You mentioned Northwestern. Is there someone else that you see having a big bounce back from a year ago?
Yeah, I'm going to say, you know, I mentioned Miami as one of my most improved teams. I'm going to throw one more out for you, and that's going to be TCU. And when you look at TCU, they've only had 2 losing seasons, like in the last 10 years for Gary Patterson. Each time they have bounced back with double-digit win years. And I like the pieces they have. They had one of the best defenses in the Big 12 last year. They had in an LSU transfer and defense. It should be one of the best in the Big 12 again. They now have a veteran quarterback in Max Duggan. When you look at the running back, Zach Evans was the number 1 running back in the country out of high school. He steps in. I think that's going to be a big upgrade for them. They had in J.D. Spielman from Nebraska. I'm looking for TCU to make a big bounce-back year this year.
And Phil, I know we're pressed for time. Final chance. Let people know how they can get your magazine.
I appreciate that very much. Once again, limited publication this year. It's only available in two places, Barnes & Noble and Books A Million. So get them right now, Barnes & Nobles and Books A Millions if you're out and about driving. Or you could go to the website and get it at philsteele.com. That's philsteele.com.
And Steele spelled Steele. Phil, as always, we look forward to our chat every year. Hopefully we can make it more frequent in the future. All the best to you. Safe travels.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. A lot of fun talking football with you this morning.
Absolutely. Thanks, Phil.
Phil Steele. Follow him on Twitter at PhilSteele042, PhilSteele042. Talking plenty of college football, and heck, who knows if there will even be college football. That may have been your buffet, Mark, and they may just pull all the food away. You sat down, you ate, you got up looking for seconds, and it's like, where'd it go? That may be what happened. So hopefully you sunk your teeth into that buffet. I know you're not a buffet guy, Mark, but work with me.
You're on a roll, and I'm letting you go right now, David. I'm just letting you go. Actually, when you were going through all that, what I thought I was going to do for you, whenever you and your wife are willing to travel all the way to Estero, I'm going to make a prime rib. And instead of serving everybody, I'm just going to set the whole thing up buffet style. I'm not even going to eat. I'm just going to sit there with a knife and cut prime rib for you. So you, David, can have a buffet. And you know what I'm going to do on this buffet? All carbs. No salad bars, nothing but carbs.
Man,
your potatoes will have potatoes.
I didn't think the show could get any dirtier. Phil Steele and you describing a carving station for a buffet.
For you only. It's a buffet for one.
Goodness, I may have a heart attack during the break. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
A date which will live in infamy. People who knock these buildings down will hear all of it.
Amazing comeback.
Uh-oh. More important information from the school.
That inspired the American story. And before you know it, another great American comeback story. In stopping
I get texts from the school nonstop.
the books. We will have a great victory. Our story
Oh,
continues.
where your daughter?
Yeah.
Great lives. On Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
You should be driving a Kia from Galliana. Galliana Kia.
Why pay more for a used car or truck when Galliana Kia in Fort Myers can sell you a new car for less?
Johnny Mac, let me talk to you about mac and cheese here. I have had barbecue at 3 different restaurants in 3 different states in the last week. And for the life of me, I don't know why these places can't make a decent mac and cheese. Closest one was, and they're a chain, or if you will, very solid too. But none of them seemed baked. There's no breadcrumbs. There was no crust. It was just mac and cheese. I make better mac and cheese than any of the barbecue. That shouldn't be that way. Baked beans, thumbs up. But Brunswick stew's amazing.
Across the nation, America is moving forward, finding our footing, getting back on our feet. Life continues to open up. Businesses are getting back to business, and we are too. We know you rely on the Good Feet store to be there when you need us. We're open and ready to serve you.
Had a good name too. What's my barbecue joint here in
to help
Brunswick?
Alleviate, even eliminate foot, knee, hip, and back
Sonny's
pain,
for Christ's sake.
and
I'm not
provide
eating that
comfort,
slop.
balance, and support. The well-being of our customers, associates, and community is our highest priority.
Willie Jewell's Old School Barbecue. On name alone, that's
Keeping health and
fantastic.
safety in the forefront. The Good Feet store is lending a hand to help America get back on its feet. And just as we have for a quarter century, we're helping to improve the quality of people's lives 2 feet at a time.
Yeah, if you wanted to see someone panic, you should have saw me climbing the stairs at Chimney Rock. And then towards the end when Maddie got tired and Jake picked her up and he's carrying, and I mean, it's only, 800 feet down. I am losing my mind.
Naples on the phone. We're talking about their huge selection and great pricing on Cortec flooring. Tim?
Then we got up to the Rock. They all watched me just basically crawl up the stairs. Stood there.
Not a big fan of heights.
I hate him. Jake's as bad as me, and we both did it. It was... And Maddie was, Daddy, the whole time. Daddy, are you okay? Are you okay?
That you have. You also have other Cortec products as well.
We also carry the Cortex.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Oh, once she knew Daddy was nervous, she was worried about me.
Oh, that's good, though.
No way.
Yeah, it's really good. Daddy, are you still scared of heights for the next 3 days?
I had a problem with heights until I...
Yeah, you told me.
Construction in the city, and basically it was either quit or do the job, and I just learned to plow through and do the job.
Floormeisters.com. That's floormeisters.com.
Let's face it, these are stressful times. New routine,
There was a moment, though, like late. You know, it was like I knew it was going to be my final day because it was a summer job. I knew this was my final day in the city doing construction. And late in the day, you know, you have the scaffolding. You have to climb. There's a way to climb inside the scaffolding and go from floor to floor, but there's also a way to go outside the scaffolding. And the way they had built it, I needed to just kind of stick my body on the outside of the scaffolding. And I looked down before I, you know, to put my feet down on the next boards. I'm like 15 stories up in the city, and there's Central Park over to the left, and I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not going to stick my body outside the scaffolding anymore. What am I, nuts?
Now back to Miller and Moulton.
All right, now we're getting somewhere.
No. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
25 minutes before the hour. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Streaming at millerandmoulton.com. Broadcasting live once again on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. And for those of you that don't have Amazon Prime and you don't get a free Twitch TV channel, if you do, make Miller and Moulton your channel. And for those that sign up, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much for doing that. 479-5551 is the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line, 479-5551. While we were talking to Phil Steele, Mark.
Yes.
Governor Ron DeSantis was talking to Clay Travis, which, as many of you know, when we're not on what normally runs in the morning on Fox Sports Radio nationally, is Clay Travis's show. So while we were talking to Phil Steele, he was talking to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who is all in, wants the SEC and the ACC to push ahead, do their own thing. And Governor DeSantis, all right, getting cutthroat, Mark, he went so far as to say that he thinks the SEC and the ACC should, if the Big Ten and the Pac-12 opt out, they should raid their rosters.
Well, you know, it's funny. I kind of thought the same thing and didn't say it. If the Big Ten and the Pac-12 don't play football, and the other three conferences do, you wouldn't grant immediate eligibility to players to come play?
The problem is, who has the scholarships available?
Hey, for 1 year, the SEC, the ACC, and whatever. David, there are no rules. What if they said we're going to 100 scholarships for a year? Who's going to tell them they can't?
Well, that would be interesting. First off, if the NCAA declared immediate waivers, which they could, but they would then have to say immediate waiving of the 85 scholarship limit, Mark. Now, I don't know if the NCAA is willing to do that. In fact, I highly doubt it. Now, could you get a court injunction and get the case looked at quickly before a season started? Depending on the state, Mark, you might be able to.
And also on Get Up ESPN about a half hour ago, Heather Dinich, college football reporter, said that the Ole Miss athletic director and the Texas A&M athletic director saying the SEC has regularly scheduled meetings this week and will continue to move forward safely. Just look at, there's a lot of reporting, but this is a solid reporter. You're not going on a show like that and saying it unless she can confirm those two things.
Yes. And Heather, before becoming a college football at large reporter, was specifically ACC. But, Mark, there was a report late in the afternoon yesterday from Saturday Down South. And when it comes to the SEC, that's a pretty good site.
Yes, it is.
Their information is good.
And they're going to be a little more risque with what they put out because they're following every message board, and they're getting some stuff that maybe not everybody knows yet. They do a really good job.
But they reported, as a matter of fact, that the SEC was planning to move forward. When the reports had just started that, it looks as if college football is going to decide en masse that they're not playing in the fall. And they came out and said, au contraire, mon frère. Now, remember, the ADs ain't getting a vote here. And Greg Sankey's not calling the shots either. And Sankey all but admitted that when the SEC announced that they were only playing 10 conference games. I mean, the remorse in Sankey's voice, he all but said, the university president's made this call. I'm just the one that's got to come out and face the music. And so if you think they're making the call as to what type of schedule they're playing, who do you think's making the call as to whether or not they're playing? But it is worth noting that while in Big Ten and Pac-12 country, it's a lot of blue states. And it's a lot of Democrats. All right. If you believe this is political, and we are very polarized right now, and I'm willing to say that over a majority of you think that what is going on is political. Well, if you believe that, Big 12, SEC, and half of ACC country is a bunch of red with a bunch of Republican governors. Now, they may not have Republican university presidents, but you know what I'm getting at here. If you think politics are at work, imagine being the university president at the University of Oklahoma. And you got Bob Bowlesby, the commissioner, you got the governor of your state, you got all of your prominent boosters, and they want you to play. Never mind your coach and your AD who have been on the record. I mean, basically, there's not a person you talk to that doesn't want you to play. Are you going to vote no? I mean, this is fascinating because, Mark, you could argue, and hey, there's leadership and there's self-preservation, and we have a lot more self-preservation in our country right now than we have leadership in everything, every walk of life. We cling to leaders.
That's not a political statement. That's a lifetime statement. That's a course of where we are in life. More because self-preservation is easier than leadership, quite frankly.
Totally. I mean, come on now. Let's face it. It's one of our failings right now. I mean, right now where we are, we have a lot more CYA than we have people. That's why we're so attracted to good leadership, whether it's at your place of business or whatever. When we see good leadership, we kind of foam at the mouth to it. Well, Mark, if you're a university president and you're interested in self-preservation, which, Mark, let's be honest, a lot of them are. It's a good job. Good benefits. Mark, are you more likely to lose your job as university president in the Big 12, SEC, and ACC if you go forward with football or if you don't go forward with football?
Lose your job?
Yeah.
Not going forward.
There you go.
Not going forward. And I have kind of been using a lot of the things that my son tells me on the show because he's the person I know best that's in college right now. And when he told me on our vacation, he goes, you got to see this email, Dad. You know the grocery stores, how they make you go one way and no one goes the right way? That's what they're trying to make us do on campus this year. How's that going to work out? And we just laughed, but they're going to put kids on campus in some way, shape, or form. They're going back. They were all moving in this week.
Right.
I said it earlier in the show. We had a time on college campuses where the football players all lived in the same dorm. for a long time.
Right.
Then they determined that that wasn't ethical to the rest of the student population. So they had to cancel essentially the football dorm.
Well, yeah, and there were some problems also, let's face it. They got out of hand. So yes, it's kind of like when sororities and fraternities get out of hand and you got to rein them back in. That happened at a lot of athletic dorms.
Yes, because they're eating different food. They still all do it now with the training tables. But I'm telling you, why can't we just simply go back to a football dorm?
Well, they got it at Clemson. I mean, basically, they have their own part of campus.
But they can pull this off if they want to.
Right.
And I will say, Trevor Lawrence, in his tweets and helping organize these players in the last 24 hours, has brought up some really good points. Are these kids really going to be in a safer environment going back home? If we're doing this for the student athlete, if not playing football is to preserve the student athlete, are they really going to be in better shape not playing football from a health standpoint? And you could argue all day long that they're not.
I don't know what Trevor Lawrence has done more to help his cause, either to win the Heisman or to be the next commissioner of college football.
Well, he has a lot of votes for the latter already. In 24 hours, he's the most popular guy in sports right now.
Well, and it is fascinating if you're the university presidents. If you have your university's athletes, and also we're just talking about football. I mean, hey, you got volleyball and soccer players who have shown up on campus going, you're going to cancel our season too? You know, we're going to fall victim like baseball and softball did? You know, what are we doing here? And if your athletes are saying, hey, we can do this, are you going to listen to them? And what is surprising to me, Mark, is that if in fact they pull the plug, that they're pulling the plug before trying. Like, this isn't what's happened in baseball. This isn't the Marlins situation. This isn't the Cardinals right now, who are going to miss a week and a half. This just in, folks. The St. Louis Cardinals have played 5 games.
And they are going to now have to play 59 games in
55 games in 46 days.
In 46 days. I screwed. Yeah, 55 and 40. It was 55 and 49, but now they've canceled the 3-game set with the Pirates. So it's 55 and 46.
Yeah, beginning Thursday, the Cardinals have 55 games to play in 46 days. Now, if and remember the MLS, they had their MLS's back cup, and a couple of teams had to pull out. Well, they tried it. They had a problem with COVID. They got removed from the tournament. The same thing with the women's soccer league. The Orlando franchise didn't even make the trip. They said, you know what, we got too many positives. We can't go. Okay, we're out. All right, but they were trying. And it is surprising to me, and it seems almost un-American to me, quite frankly, to pull the plug on something before trying it. I think, Mark, that citizens, never mind fans, would be okay if they tried it. Showed up on campus, we're 2-3 weeks in, we're about ready to play games, or we're 2-3 weeks into the season and we've got too much COVID. This ain't working, we can't do it, we got to pull the plug. Okay. All right. Like if Major League Baseball, Mark, decided tomorrow, you know what, the Cardinals are out. They screwed up. They went to a casino, they screwed it up, they're out. I think the rest of us would be like, yeah, okay, they tried it. They couldn't pull it off. Next. But if they had pulled the plug before they went to the casino and had the outbreak, and I know you got 28 Rutgers players that are apparently still in quarantine, and Michigan State had like 16 and whatever. I'm not saying that there's not COVID out there on these campuses, but it is August 10th. I'm just surprised that they would pull the plug this week. September 10th, I'd get it. August 10th, I'm surprised.
And it is going to be a hell of a 21 hours and a few minutes until we go back on the air. Because I'm telling you right now, this is not going to end. We're not going to have any answers, I don't think, by the end of the day, maybe in the Big Ten. But it certainly seems, everything we're hearing right now, the SEC is going forward. At least as of this moment.
Well, but Mark, they want to. The commissioner wants to, and the ADs want to, but it's up to the presidents. Are we sure the presidents are going forward?
And your point is, no, we're not sure. But as you said, David, you have university presidents, but you also have governors in most of these states that are Republican governors. I don't want to make this political. We desperately try to keep politics out of this show. But if you don't think that this decision's political, I think you're crazy. Of course it's political. Damn near every decision that's made these days is, unfortunately.
Except on this show. There's nothing political about the stories that Mark chooses for the good, the bad, and the ugly.
No, there are not.
They are simply at his discretion. Period.
I could just do all personal ones from vacation, but I'll find some juicy ones here.
The good, the bad, and the ugly as we wrap up our first show back from break. Hope you are doing well. Thanks for being with us, Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Welcome to the program.
This is the Dan Patrick Show.
The Pelicans, if I'm the Pelicans, I just say to Zion, why don't you go home? But if you're not going to play him, then just send him home. He just doesn't look like he's in shape. I feel like the Pelicans felt like the NBA did everything they could do to get you guys in a position to maybe make it into the postseason. But they can't play the games for you.
Dan Patrick. The Dan Patrick Show. Weekdays at 9 a.m. on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Are you ready to take your game and athletic training to the next level? Looking to improve your speed, posture, endurance, conditioning, and mental training for tennis or any sport? Reach your star potential at Academia Sanchez Casal, Florida, and Naples. Operated by tennis superstars. Olympic silver medalist Emilio Sanchez and Arantxa Sanchez. The former world champ with 14 Grand Slam titles. You won't get this level of training anywhere else. And now expanded to include highly stylized off-court hydro pool programs for ages 10 and up. World-class athletic trainer and founder of Hydro Athletics, Stephen DeViti, will coach you or your child through a unique program of high-intensity, low-impact, results-driven hydroathletic training using the latest in resistance technology and equipment, safely in compliance with CDC guidelines. Group or one-on-one sessions, short and long-term programs for beginners through elite professional athletes of any sport. Step up your game and enroll now.
So there was a tweet sent out 8 minutes ago by Wake Forest Football.
For over 20 years,
it's Wake Forest Football together. Hashtag we want to play. There's one person not in a football uniform speaking to the players. He's Wake Forest President Nathan Hatch.
Dan Martineau here, owner of DR Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. I've been repairing and replacing roofs for 27 years. We operate with integrity, knowledge, and service.
So you wonder, did Wake Forest Football send out that tweet? Because, and the president's behind them? He's a president who goes, hey, I want to go forward with this? Or did they just send out a tweet and the university president's going to go back to his office and take a look and go, hey, I wasn't advocating us playing.
That's the game.
Enjoy the conversation that makes you think.
I would not think about ripping him. What are you talking about?
Enjoy all of this.
Love it. Embrace it.
Isn't it great? And let's not forget,
because we're doing it all for you.
You just watch. We're going to do it, and do it often.
We're Fox Sports Radio.
No matter where you're boating, with Towboat US, you're covered by the world's largest towing fleet with over 300 ports nationwide. Your local Towboat US companies in Charlotte, Lee, and Collier counties are here to help 24/7, 365 days a year. Inland, the river to Lake O, and out 75 nautical miles. And new membership pricing starts as low as $99. Call 239-945-1664 for more information, or visit towboatuscapecoral.com. With Towboat US, you're never stuck on the water.
Hardee's presents the new spicy Western Bacon Cheeseburger. It's just like the Western Bacon Cheeseburger with char-broiled beef, crispy bacon and onion rings, and topped with tangy barbecue sauce. But we added spicy jalapenos and melty pepper jack cheese. We took a burger that was already delicious and spiced it up. Why are we using this whip
Dale
wrap to explain
Talon
it?
fired
Because
as
jalapenos
Panthers
sound
GM.
like this.
It reportedly happened within the hour of them getting eliminated.
Boy, I laughed because, Alzagari decided to send a tweet to me yesterday that I said I'd bet him on football. I was like, okay, we're going to do revisionist history on Twitter, Orlando. You didn't say anything when I sent you the tweet, but now 2 months later, did you just hold that? But he then tweeted, look at the ownership. They see a problem and they fix it immediately. The guy's been the GM for 10 years and they don't win a playoff game. And he put a pretty good roster together. How the hell is it his fault that they can't win a playoff game? That roster's good.
Yeah. It's not bad.
Limited time only at participating Hardee's restaurants.
It's not bad.
Participation may vary.
From the best headlines.
The best.
Not to mention, they're on the hunt for this. Now they got a shot at this. No, they don't.
And hide the women and children.
12 seed's going to get that.
This is Mark Miller's Good, Bad, and Ugly on Fox Sports Radio.
You're live.
For the good today, we go to Texas, where Andrew Grond was in his home when he saw a big gator coming out of the canal behind his property. Saved his son and his 4-year-old daughter and the babysitter were all back in the backyard. After he got the kids and the babysitter behind a gate, called the alligator hunter. He couldn't do the job. Alligator hunter had to call the Texas game wardens. Took 7 people, 3 hours, 2 poles, a rope, and several pieces of plywood to get the gator out of the water. But now it's at an alligator theme park in Beaumont, who lost all their gators during Hurricane Harvey. Everybody wins, even the gator.
Yeah.
Usually that gator becomes boots after a situation like that.
Right.
For the bad, we go to Somerset County in Pennsylvania, where a man was doing some shooting. And in an attempt to gain a better grip on his gun, he placed his left index finger in front of the muzzle on his gun and shot through his finger.
Unbelievable.
Extent of the injuries are unknown. We do know he won't be able to pick his nose anytime soon.
I say no. Actually, I think I
got
think
a pretty
we
good
know
idea.
some of the extent of the injuries.
No
really
finger.
Right.
For the ugly, we come back to the Sunshine State, where Brian Duffy was arrested after dousing a 7-Eleven employee with his Slurpee. It happened at 9:20 in the morning because Duffy was upset about the price he was being charged with the Slurpee. And when the female employee had the Slurpee in her hand, he did the old
no
and doused her with it.
You rat blank.
He recalled that there was an incident in which he was being charged too much for the drink, but he does not recall knocking the Slurpee out of the worker's hand all over the worker.
Really? What, do you have a stroke at that moment?
Well, let's just say this isn't the first time he's been in jail. And
He's a serial Slurpee attacker? Seriously?
I think he's also done it with a frozen Coke. And that, David, is the good, the bad, and the ugly. On this August 10th, brought to you by Strikers Billiards on US 41 and Bonita Beach Road, where 8 balls aren't just on the table. Strikers Billiards, big sponsor of the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Oh, boy. Miller and Moulton.
Hey, when a segment goes unsponsored for 3 years, I can start making crap up.
It's our show. We can, make as much fun as we want. They can no longer carry the show, but we can certainly make fun of it. To me, when you said that was like 9:20 in the morning,
1 minute.
I look at Slurpees as kind of like breakfast hours, lunch hours, dinner hours. That's early in the day for me.
Way too early for me to have a Slurpee.
Yeah, that's a little early. What are you getting so bent out of shape for? You're having a Slurpee at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Which means he was probably up all night, David. If you want a Slurpee at 9:20, you haven't been to bed yet.
Yeah, you've been up a while. Yeah. So, Miller and Moulton.
More defunct Southwest Florida businesses be named sponsors tomorrow on the show when we have Pat Kerwin.
Oh, boy. It's nice to be back.
It is.
Had a lot of fun today. A lot to chew on. All right. Hopefully the sports world gives us something positive to talk about, particularly when it comes to college football.
Because we need it.
Yeah, we do. But the hashtag we want to play, it's taking over right now.
And we want to watch. Miller and Moulton, Fox Sports Radio.
Okay, you guys have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Giro. Great job.
Giro.
Why pay more for a used car or truck when Galliana Kia and Fort Myers?
Good night, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for watching.